9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
It's time for 3 hours of sports talk excellence in the Flower City. Welcome and pull up a stool. We don't take ourselves too seriously here. Trust me. It's Battaglia today with Schneider. And I thought for sure you'd be wearing Jay's gear today. But no, this is the Bonnie hat.
Yeah, I had my Ernie Clement jersey on the other day on the break room. I just spent a week in the break room, so the personality may be unleashed in these next 3 hours. I've got to reel it back into normal me.
Oh, boy. Like, was the door big enough here to fit your ego through? I mean, honestly, like, how long are you on the break room for?
It was just the last few days. Tommy was out of town visiting some family, so I filled in while he was out.
All right, are you in tomorrow?
No, he's back. He's back, so I'm back over here.
You're back over here.
Amherst tonight.
Yep, I was going to say you're pulling a double here tonight. Amherst home game number 2, Syracuse tonight, 7 o'clock. Set the table here. And our guests are both going to be in the 4 o'clock hour today. Really, your lead story is, wait, the Bills are on the field. For the first time, we've got some Bills news since we saw them get thumped in Atlanta. Back at work today. And there's a lot of injury notes here, and we'll get to them here in a little bit. Sal Capaccio from WGR, also the Buffalo Bills Radio Network sideline reporter, our good friend, will be joining us at 4 o'clock to go down the list here, everything. And, there's going to be some roster moves you might think this week. We'll talk to Sal coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. PJ Glasser, we had to bump back just a little bit. We'll get his winners this week. PJ Glasser, your host of Send It In on the BetMGM Network. He'll be at about 4:05, which leaves 3 o'clock this hour wide open for you. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. The proverbial table is set. I got to hand it to you, Tim. I thought, like, this wasn't the time where, we were doing, a football game the one time and you walked in right as the open was playing and I was about ready to strangle you. So it was pretty close today, though.
No, I've got some... I do have some time management problems for sure, but I had some appointments to handle this afternoon for family members, so we got those all situated and got here just in time, I think we'll call it.
Let's go over the Bills stuff here for you. And, again, Sal will be joining us next hour to provide some context. But 2 players not practicing today, we know for sure, in the official injury report. Wednesday practice report hasn't come out yet. Josh Palmer still week to week, not practicing, listed as week to week. Kind of tells me he ain't playing. Along with Daquan Jones, again, not practicing today. When asked about injured reserve for either of these players, head coach Sean McDermott only used the coy, "we'll see." That's because, well, you're going to have to find space here for another wide receiver, let's just say. Hoyt, Ogunjobi, both of those players returning to practice today. Actually, technically, first time this regular season they've been practicing. Their 6-game suspension has been completed, but that's like question number 1 for Sal coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Like, okay, it's great that they're back at practice, but can you really plug them in there and go? And if so, like, how much are you relying on these guys? I don't know. There's nothing kind of that we can liken to this. There's no parallel, that you could say the Bills in recent history where they've had a player to start the season. You almost forgot, we had Von Miller go away for 4 weeks. But Von Miller, at that point, you weren't relying on, and the Bills were kind of sort of winning at that point. It was almost like, oh, yeah, Von's here. And if he brought you anything, it was fine at that point. Dorian Strong, kind of a concern. Remember Dorian Strong? Hey, had a good camp. Hey, let's give him some reps here in place of Tre'Davious White. Oh, he's got a neck injury. Come to find out, he saw a neck specialist, and the way McDermott phrased it today, the team combing through the information from said neck specialist. So, gosh, and that's something you can't speculate on. You can only hope for the best, but it leaves your mind to kind of wander thinking about possibly the worst. So it doesn't really kind of clear up anything, but that's how neck injuries sometimes kind of go. And as we already knew, the window for Maxwell Harrison is open, and thanks to the good camera people of Western New York, a lot of this showing up on your social media feed. And from what I can understand, Tim, you see Harrison not in a knee brace. Now, again, that kind of goes with that's fantastic. He should not be on the field this week. No way, no how, not doing. Give him this week practice, probably next week's practice. I don't think I would want him out there against the Chiefs. I'd even give him the following week. And then if you get to that point, then you sprinkle him in maybe for the Tampa game a little here and there. But, again, at least his season right now doesn't appear to be over if they're beginning this process to perhaps bring him back. So a lot of injury stuff today. And out of Carolina, the story is they're not saying 100%. But if the Bills lose to Andy Dalton, I just said that out loud. ... Fill in the blank. Tim, you cannot lose to Andy Dalton if you want to fashion yourself as a Super Bowl contender here.
Andy Dalton has been a journeyman who hasn't really gone anywhere. It's a weird career that he's had after leaving Cincinnati. Bryce Young isn't really achieving what was expected out of him anyway, so the Panthers may be in a better spot. I mean, you're right, you can't lose to Andy Dalton, but the Panthers may be more competitive with Andy Dalton in this spot than Bryce Young.
Yeah, weird thing about Young, he really came on at the end of last year, and it was because they were kind of out of it, and we really weren't paying attention, but I remember watching this game against the Chiefs, and he's making plays, and you saw the speed of the ball and the ball coming out, like, oh, that's why he went number one overall. Finally, for the first time you saw that. And then you had a bunch of stat guys saying, hey, in the last 3 games using this metric, he's a top 3 quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback. And that got people to maybe overdraft him a little bit in their fantasy league or overvalue the Panthers. I just think the Panthers are, overall a team that still needs a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, but they're dangerous enough. They can run the ball. The Bills really haven't shown they can stop the run, and you're on the road. Anything can happen. So I'm not willing to say this is a shoo-in, not by any stretch. In fact, I'd say it's a dangerous situation for the Buffalo Bills. If we're all thinking that the Bills are just going to show up and play some ball here and win the game, that's kind of what the mentality was a couple years ago heading down to Jacksonville, facing a young quarterback and a head coach that wasn't over his head, and you lost a stinker of a game. So as long as the offense does their thing here, Tim, this is why I put it, again, squarely on the shoulders of Josh Allen and offensive line, James Cook, and the conductor of the train there, Joe Brady. If the offense for the Bills does their job, you must make the Carolina offense match point for point. I don't think Andy Dalton can outduel Josh Allen. So, therefore, and a lot can change here, I guess. But right now, here on Wednesday, I'm saying the Bills are going to bounce back. I just haven't decided, how this game is going to kind of unfold.
Yeah, the Bills spent their bye week defensively preparing to face Bryce Young, so you can kind of throw that preparation away. That said, offensively, they have 13 days to figure out their miscues over the last few weeks. If they don't have it figured out by now against the Panthers team, who surprisingly is over 500, if they don't take care of business in Carolina against Carolina, then what are we doing here as far as considering them as a title contender out of the AFC? The whole NFL is weird this year. The Bills are a major part of that. But if they don't handle business this week with their offense, as dormant as it's been the last few weeks, there are going to be many, many red flags coming out of Buffalo.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks, Tim, where we're going to think of the worst case scenario, but they should be okay. We've seen this, and you always used to make fun. You were way ahead of the curve on this, and I've known Tim before you started doing this on air stuff. We met, and you were a producer, but this was. It was kind of more toward the beginning of the drought era, and 2010-ish, somewhere around there. And you would always say, for Bills fans back then, there was always this this life cycle. And it's turned into a meme for everybody and every team that, hey, in September we get excited, and then there comes the crash and everybody is down, and by the holidays we're on to the holidays. And I'd say, well, it's a little more updated because the Bills are actually good now, but in the same sense, the cycle is the same. There is always going to be, for the Bills, this little midseason blip. And we're kind of left determining, Tim, okay, is this just kind of business as normal? Is this kind of the Bills? All right, you lost games in Baltimore and Houston. All right, get back at it. And they won an ugly one. Forget that. It was a Monday night game against the Jets. You needed 4 quarters to beat the Jets on the road. But eventually the season came around. Does this year, to you, feel any different than in years past?
Kind of, but not really. Like every year, I think the Bills the last 5 years have lost a pair of games in a row, and then they've gotten right. If this becomes a 3-game losing streak with the Chiefs coming to town, then that is that's a huge red flag, because the Chiefs, we made fun of them 2 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden they're the team to beat in the AFC, because that's the life cycle of NFL fandom. Oh my God, the sky is falling, and hey, actually, no, we are completely fine because we are the Kansas City Chiefs and we are better than you.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen. So if the Bills go, and let's just say it's not a last-second field goal. Let's say the Bills take care of this and they win by multiple scores. I don't need a 41-7 game. It would be really nice for Bills fans. But if you had, say, a comfortable, I'll call this way, 30 to 17 win, where sure your defense needed a little help, but your offense looks good. Yeah, everybody's going to be sky high for the Chiefs. Everybody's going to say this is our game to show that we are back here and the Chiefs are coming in, and what would it take to beat Kansas City? And it's exactly right. It's so week to week, Tim, that we almost forget. All right, what was it we were talking about 3 weeks ago? What was it we were talking about 2 months ago? In some of these storylines, like, I had kind of forgotten. Like, one thing we kind of forgot is, the Bills needed a place kicker. Well, that problem was kind of solved. We're just on to the next problem with this. So the cycle of NFL fandom is also part of this story, that self-awareness is a great thing. And if we're all kind of self-aware that we're kind of in the middle of this right now, that, hey, if you're a Bills fan, you're dangerous to say this, manage your expectations. Don't get too high over a win over the Panthers. Don't get too low over a loss to the Falcons. I always find it amusing, Tim, that beginning of the year where we're doing the exercise, which he turned this into a bit in Buffalo. Think about that. When they do the Howard picks the Bills, literally, that's a bit. Like, okay, 1 week you could say they're going to win, 1 week we're going to say to lose. It just kind of paints a picture of this league. You don't know. So when we were doing that exercise ourselves throughout the spring and the summer, when they get to that Monday night game in Atlanta, Atlanta's talented. I think the Bills will lose that game. And then we get to the game, and the Bills lose that game. I can't believe the Bills lost that game. But yet you were saying that back in the spring and the summer. Yet we're all upset about it. But when you see it and the way it kind of went about, Tim, the cycle of NFL fandom is certainly kind of a thing.
The emotions and the expectations, just from a week-to-week thing. Like you said, if we scope this schedule out in August and we're staring at 14-3, we just don't know where the 3 are. Then it comes into play, and 14-3 becomes 10-7. We're still a playoff team, and it changes every single week just based on how they look. Like, they had 3 straight double-digit wins, and you could argue that barely any of them were impressive. They beat the Dolphins by, I think, 10, and that was a one-possession game all the way through. They beat the Saints by 12, but they were in a position where they could have been trailing in the fourth quarter against a team that everybody that I talked to thought that the Bills would wipe the floor with. Then you go in and you lose the Patriots, which I never expected. Was it possible? Sure, but I didn't expect them to actually leave with an L there. And then to not rebound and then go into the bye week with 2 straight losses. Like, you're just sitting and stewing in failure, and now they have to get out of it. And if they don't get out of it, the sky will be falling, especially with the Chiefs, who have Marcus Mariota and the Commanders coming forward and not Jaden Daniels.
But see, like, you're painting this picture of doom, 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 doom. I'm saying, like,
it's not doom, because if they take care of business, everything is fine. But if they don't, it is doom. And that's the best thing about the NFL is we sit here And we wait and wait and wait 6 days from, like, as soon as that game is over, we're on to the next one, and we think about it, and we think about how it can go. But then it actually gets played, and it almost never goes the way that, like, we script it out. Is the result the same typically? Probably. But is the way that we get there the way that we thought? Almost never. And that's this whole Bills season. The Bills offense has been stagnant, but they're still putting up points. James Cook has been incredible, but Josh Allen has not been MVP Josh Allen. And without that, do we really consider the Bills a Super Bowl contender? Are they a playoff team? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Our show is much better when you participate. Here are the ways you can do it. Phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to us on X, The Fan Rochester. We're also on Facebook. I'm barely looking at that, got to be honest, so probably X is the best way. We're also on YouTube and Twitch. Say hello to everybody there. And actually, I got Tim's Chiron right today.
Yes. I didn't even get a name tag in the break room.
No, you didn't. So, like, I should have wrote, like, terrible take. And that just, but it is listing Tim Schneider there. And, yes, I'm wearing my Tiger gear of RIT. Tim is wearing his Bonnet gear. You can leave a comment in the section. We can get to that. Chris in Kentucky writing in. Seems like Danger is kind of like Ferris Bueller recently. Each week he gets a day off. I'm sure Danger will only say, though, he's taken 9 days off with the 9 days meme. Yeah, he would say he's on assignment. Here's the thing. He, just like just like you, Tim, we have other jobs here. And so he got called to, I have no idea why he got called down to Virginia. So he's in Virginia.
When duty calls.
Yeah. So he's out of there, and Danger will be he'll be back tomorrow. But I'm not one to say on assignment. Can't say that. Not my thing. Be transparent.
Always working.
Always working. Let's say, if we're not working here, we're working somewhere else. Chris, thank you for the feedback. The more I think about this World Series, Tim, wouldn't it be fun if the Jays just split? If they just said, this isn't the NLCS. We're not the Milwaukee Brewers. We took care of the Yankees in the Bronx. Seattle was a good team. I thought Seattle was actually going to break through. Wouldn't it be fun? And there are countless examples. Countless in sports, not just the World Series, of teams that are heavily favored. And I'm looking at you, Patriots, double-digit favorites against the Rams. You lost outright. Double-digit favorites against the Giants, and you lost outright. All right, so here are the Dodgers, heavy favorites. The Dodgers, the excellent pitching staff. Well, their bullpen maybe is a little meh, but they're starting pitching. What does it even matter if you have Yamamoto going 9 innings, if you have Shohei Ohtani striking out 10 and hit 3 homers? The Dodgers are the superior team, but that's why they play the game of baseball. And I would say that of all the sports, Tim, hockey is the one with the biggest variance. The puck bounce is weird. You're on ice. Things happen. But try to control a baseball, where you're going to hit it and where you're going to throw it, or what. All it takes is just one or two things, and I would take John Schneider over Dave Roberts as a manager. So I'm not ruling out the Jays. I'm just rooting for this not to go 4 games. Can the Jays make this interesting, at least split the first 2?
I think the Blue Jays are being completely undervalued. And sure, the Dodgers are the more talented team. There's no disputing that. There's no debating that. And when their starting pitchers are moved to the bullpen, it kind of negates their stinky bullpen. That said, the Blue Jays have found a way all season long with role players. Like George Springer's a superstar, no doubt about it. Vlad Guerrero, superstar. But the rest of that team are all role players that have found a role and played it almost perfectly, and they're in this spot for a reason. They are a talented team capable of winning this World Series. I don't know if they will. I know that they won't get swept. That's my promise to you, is this will go at least 5 or 6 games, and there's a chance, a real decent chance, that the Blue Jays actually hoist this trophy at the end of it.
I just for fun, we'll ask PJ this question. He knows it's coming his way. Like, when you're looking at odds for World Series MVP. And I haven't looked up Shohei's odds. I would think he's the favorite. I don't even know if that would be like a smart bet. Like, is it really worth your time when you're that much of a heavy favorite? You want to take a guess. You can't look it up. Ernie Clement.
Oh, I already bet it. Plus 4,500.
All right.
It was.
Did you feel that was your Rochester civic duty to do that?
It felt like a necessity. Like, it's been so cool to watch. So why not? Like, is it probable? Absolutely, positively not. But is it possible? Sure. And if I can make some money off of it, hell yeah.
I'm glad you got a 4,500. The odds I was looking at 40-1. So you got it 45-1, which that's a little better.
I'll take it.
You'll take it.
And if it happens, beer's on me.
Did you text Ernie at all? Have you?
I did reach out to him to see if he would be willing to participate in this show and on the break room. I did not hear back, but he's busy trying to win a World Series, so I totally understand.
That is totally understandable. Like, what if the Blue Jays were smart? We are the town that if you call us pretty, we're going to fall head over heels. And if you don't believe me, Bill's training camp and Brandon Bean and Sean McDermott say the word Rochester. We're like, oh.
That's us.
That's us. Yeah, what have the Washington Nationals done to make Rochester feel loved? I don't know. Like, they saved us as a AAA affiliate, I suppose. Like, if the Blue Jays came in with Ernie and had some, like, if Ernie wins the World Series, I think back to Brian Giunta, and he brought the cup. I remember him going to the place on West Ridge Road, their locker room, like, hey, come down and meet, Brian Giunta and meet the cup. And granted, you don't really have something symbolic like that, like in hockey, but if the Jays were to kind of win the whole thing, could there be some sort of Ernie Clement Day in our town? Would the Jays be involved in something like that? The
Red Wings would be involved with it. They've done stuff with him during the offseason. They've brought him in for autograph signings and stuff at the team store, and I'm sure that with more glory comes more want. And if he wins the World Series, he's going to be a hot commodity, and he'll be available. I'm sure that there'll be at least one or two events where he is engaged with his Rochester community, especially if they win the World Series.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah, like you want to kind of make it big there. So, and it's good that the Red Wings, can kind of be behind that, even though they're not affiliated with it. How different would our world have been had we hooked up with Toronto and not Buffalo? Massively. A lot.
Yeah, it would have been really cool.
It would have been cool.
Instead, we get 2 months of James Wood, a couple months of Dylan Cruz,
and
that's 78 losses in a row. Really.
I don't know if there's ever going to be an opportunity to go shopping for another parent club, and you don't want to be the affiliate that shops every so often. But I'm just saying,
the son asking for a divorce.
Yeah, Scranton. If you could ever get the Yankees,
that would be unreal for this area. But they don't really care about their prospects, so I don't even know if it would be engaging.
But they do have prospects. Like when they come in, hey, there's the Martian. Hey, there's Rice. Hey, there's so-and-so I saw go up with the Yankees. It would mean something at the box office here. And again,
absolutely.
This is just a pipe dream, but you got to remember that the Yankees were affiliated with Columbus all the way back when. We can go back all the way back then. Like, wait a second, how did they leave Columbus? I don't know that story. It ended up in Scranton. And for the Yankees, like, I would think that you don't have to worry about flights or anything. It's 2 hours. Just go through the Delaware Water Gap, and then you're basically there. I mean, you could call up somebody at 2 o'clock, and you could be in the Bronx easily for game time. It's not that simple in Rochester, I suppose. That's why it's nothing more than a pipe dream. We've got other NFL news and notes to get to. We have time for your calls. Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Oh, and we – yeah, the Sabres are playing tonight, as are the Amerks, but a change in the Sabres schedule – And we'll explain why, and that's coming up here. My name is Gene Battaglia with Tim Schneider today here on The Fan Rochester.
Update.
Bills finally back at practice today. Josh Palmer, Daquan Jones not practicing. They're still considered week to week. And Coach Sean McDermott knows that Carolina's really got a good running attack.
The ability to have two guys is certainly, powerful and dangerous. There's very few in the league who have two. I think overall it's they bring a lot to the table in terms of what they do at the line of scrimmage and the tackles they break, and the numbers speak for themselves.
We will talk to Sal Capaccio next hour, get a practice report. The Bills just coming off the field a little while ago. Rochester Americans back in action tonight. It's home game number 2 of the season. Syracuse is the opponent. 7 o'clock for the coverage here on The Fan with Don and Andrew. Sabres hockey tonight taking on Detroit. 7:30 for the coverage on 96.5 WCMF. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Normally, I'm not kind of carving out time to do something like this, but last night, indeed, I sat down and I'm like, all right, I want to kind of see what this NBA thing is all about here. Welcome back to the sports bar. We'll talk about that. By the way, what was mentioned before there, the Sabres, Tim, they've got moved up to 5 o'clock on Saturday, all to accommodate the Toronto Maple Leafs.
That's not very nice of us. Why would we do such a thing? Why would we accommodate the opposition? So the Blue Jays can play?
So their fans can see.
Okay, fine. If we're doing it for the fans, I'll take it. If we're doing it for the team, no.
Well, does it put the Sabres at any disadvantage? I mean, this game is up in Toronto, and that's like a big old party. Now, I don't think, like in Seattle, let's say, that was always going to be like a big thing, right? Because the baseball stadium and the football stadium right next to each other, we can't have the 2 games going on at the same time. Like, okay, from a public safety standpoint, in terms of, first responders, that sort of thing, I get that. And it's the same thing in Baltimore. Is it true in Toronto where the majority of people are coming in by rail? And I don't think that's the reason why they did that. I think there's enough space between Scotiabank Arena and, Rogers Center there. So I think they just did it for the fans, basically. Like, let the fans. And furthermore, there's some games later in the series where the Leafs are playing in Calgary. And people in Calgary want to watch the Jays too, so they moved it up for them.
The Blue Jays taking over the North American world is something I didn't ever expect to see since 1993, but it's really cool. I'm happy for them, and Buffalo has a lot of Blue Jays fans too, so that's a benefit as well.
Do they?
It's mostly Yankees, but
yeah,
it's a regional thing. There's a good amount.
I think that people will get on board and bandwagon this. We are doing this in Rochester.
I am guilty as sin as far as bandwagon right now. I am all Blue Jays, and I actually like the Dodgers, and I think that it's fun for everybody says it's ruining baseball. Since this whole contract thing began with Ohtani and the deferred deals and the Dodgers being the only ones to do it, I love it. I think it's awesome. They portray themselves as the bad guy, and they're kind of enjoying it. That doesn't bother me. That said, I would love for them to lose to the Toronto Blue Jays.
I'm curious to see how Toronto fan handles Shohei, and it's probably going to be how they handle everything else.
They damn near got him. But yes.
Polite.
That's okay.
Everything else. Like, if that happened up here, it would be constant boos. Like, oh, you're not good enough for us? Oh. I really thought Shohei was heading up here. No, the opportunity here is, and you know this, Tim, like, you go up to 2.5, 3 hours for a Major League Baseball game. You can do this easy on a Saturday, have dinner, and come back. Heck, we tried it with the boat many years ago, and it didn't work out. But you still can go up there. And I have a friend that works in the Horseshoe there in radio. His name's Rod Mahood, and he pointed this out to me years ago. It's like, no, you don't drive into Toronto. Park here. You park at it's called Appleton. I remember this because of Applebee's, but it's not Applebee's. It's Appleton, and it's basically kind of a commuter train. You just kind of take it in, and the trick is that they really didn't have a conductor there, Tim, collecting tickets. I paid for the tickets both ways. I'm like, I had my ticket in the hand, and Oh, no, but not that I'm saying to do that or not.
Noted for next time.
Noted for next time. But, like, if you're ever going up to Toronto, that's my life hack there. You don't want to drive into the city. You don't want to park in the city. Just park for free and take the train in, and you're basically it's the same amount of time. So, again, we'll talk more baseball. Friday, we're Jim Riley from Ballcap Sports, who's a huge Jay fan, will be coming on with us. You're always welcome to join us. Our number 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Now, again, what I was saying about last night, I normally wouldn't carve out time for this, but I just wanted to see how it looked. Like, okay, for the first time since what, 2002, we had an NBA game on NBC last night, and it looked and sounded like every other NBC broadcast. Like, oh, there's Mike Tirico. Hey, there's Maria, and there's some talking heads there at the half here, and it was just we had some cool bumper music, and yeah, it was kind of and of course the round bowl rocks. So I suppose it's something that a lot of fans will find a little more accessible than TNT. I'm just curious, Tim, how tonight is going to play. So tonight you've got ESPN's turn. You got a lot of games in the NBA tonight. So
I believe every single team plays tonight.
Yeah, it's Cleveland and the Knicks tonight, right? And before that, game at 7. At 6 o'clock on ESPN, you get the TNT show, which really technically isn't a TNT show, although they're producing it inside the NBA. I'm just curious, is Chuck going to go on there and just make fun of ESPN on their own network?
I hope so.
Yeah,
that's the only
absolutely,
thing. I am not a huge NBA guy. I follow it casually, and I enjoy when certain players have great individual performances and when the Cavs win because Cleveland obligation for whatever stupid reason that my brain tells me I have to do. But that show is something that I would tune into without watching any NBA. I would watch that for an hour and enjoy myself because of how funny the four of them are together. It's a good show. It's fun. And Barkley, out of his mind on a network that he disparages routinely, will be very, very funny.
Yeah, and then Ernie Johnson will play the straight guy and just kind of like, no, try to pull it back in, come on, Charles. Another bad impression. Like
You tried.
I tried.
You shouldn't have, but you tried.
Thank you, Tim. So we got that to look forward to today. I think it's a bandwidth issue, right? Because if we had baseball, we wouldn't be watching last night. If you had the Sabres last night, you're probably not watching last night. And that's why the NBA is actually kind of smart. They were like, okay, what's a night where we won't have a lot of competition? Let's pick that right here.
Pick it on a night where the Sabres are playing and nobody still cares.
Meanwhile, like when the Sabres opened up, when the NHL opened up, it was a much busier time. And I get that, but I think all these seasons, quite frankly, are just too long at this point. And the idea that the NHL at some point may start their season in September, that's just nutty. But different parts of this continent, Tim, that would be welcome, I suppose. Like in Canada, they treat it like it's the number one sport. It is the number one sport in their country, so they wouldn't mind so much. For us, it's the NFL, it's college football.
We have too much to consume for us to engage ourselves with September hockey. I love hockey. I would watch it year-round. I do watch it year-round. But as a national, something that the nation would jump in on, that's a tough sell.
So not present today was Mark Sanchez, who was charged with attacking and seriously injuring a truck driver. But apparently Sanchez still is injured, so he wasn't required. December 11th will be the trial date for this. And it's one of these stories there where we don't want to wander into a dangerous area, but we can wonder, right?
Wonder, yes. Wander, no. Very dangerous to wander.
Very dangerous to wander.
You might hurt yourself.
But why was Mark Sanchez in that state of mind? Why was Doug Martin in the state of mind when he was in police custody, allegedly breaking in? Doug Martin passing away, the former Buccaneers running back. Tim, I don't know. Like at some point, we're gonna have to say, like, what is going on here? Like, this is not normal behavior Martin was 36. Sanchez is, 40-something? Like, it's not normal behavior for a young man to act like that.
We can speculate CTE. We can speculate drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, these supreme, multi-talented athletes are humans with flaws at the end of the day. And the support system just doesn't seem to be there. And there's a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but there is a reason that there are these unfortunate, untimely deaths far too routinely.
Yeah. Bill's injury report is out. And as we knew, players not practicing: Josh Palmer, Daquan Jones, Taylor Rapp. I'll get back to that in a second. Limited today. Kincaid, Milano, Samuel, Bernard. Well, that's good for Bernard, right? He was kind of up in the air. That didn't look really good. And then Hairston is still on IR, technically. Back to Taylor Rapp. And I said this on the show yesterday, Tim. And no one cares when you're right, but you should listen to me. There, I feel much better saying that. We were talking about, all right, the safety play has been so bad. It really has been for the Bills. Okay, there was the play by Cole Bishop against the Saints, and you had Taylor Rapp giving max effort chasing down the wide receiver for Atlanta, Drake London, and preventing a touchdown at the end of the first half. Okay, I get all that, but it's been bad, okay? Can we just admit that? Well, if you want to try something different, how would you go about that if you're really not sure if the thing you're switching to is any better? Like, are we really sure that we're ready to give Jordan Hancock a try? Are we really bought in on Jordan Poyer getting elevated again, which he was, and he saw snaps? And what I told Danger was, well, the easy way out is, you tell Taylor Rapp that something's not feeling just right here, and then and then it gives you an out. It gives the player, everybody saves face here. And if, say, Jordan Hancock, wow, why didn't we make that move earlier? He was great. If Jordan Hancock, like, boy, this kid needs more work, then Rapp goes back in there. Wouldn't you know? Like Taylor Rapp, knee injury. Now, he was hurt, mind you.
He's got a Q next to his name, huh?
Yeah. So that's I think that's kind of a pathway out of this. Because the one thing I don't see the Bills doing, I don't see the Bills making a big-time trade for a starter at the safety position. For whatever reason, they believe, and it's hard to argue because this franchise has had success, that you got to know the system. And it's one thing to bring in a guy like Dean Marlowe, who's a reserve and knows the system. It's one thing to bring in an A.J. Klein, who was a reserve, and you're not bringing him back, mind you, and you're not bringing Marlowe back. But these are the types of guys that they bring back. Jordan Poyer, for example. But to go out and trade for a whoever, fill the blank in here. It does, while money-wise, capital-wise, what you'd have to send back in terms of a draft pick. And, hey, you know what? Do we really trust the guy coming into our system? So I think the Bills are trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I'd be excited, Tim. If Hancock gets tapped, I'd be excited. And the thing is, I thought I'd never be saying this. The safety play is so bad. Could Jordan Poyer do any worse?
Unfortunate reality of that situation is no. Do we want to try it out? Probably not. But it's at a point, like, we're just about halfway through the season, and there has been, I think, what'd you cite? 2 positive plays that were like actual highlights out of those 2 players. Is it Hancock's turn? Maybe by default. Like,
maybe
go out there, see if you can perform. If you do an adequate job, it's at minimum another depth piece to a team that needs all the depth it can get. And Bishop and Rapp, decent players. Nothing to write home about, but if they're not performing, somebody has to come in and perform. Otherwise, there is a sieve in that defense that they can exploit week by week, and it seems to be happening.
Danger will be back tomorrow. Coming up next, something he said yesterday on the show, he would be telling you he was right. I will explain that he saw something, and yep, this is going to happen. We have time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326, with terrible time Timmy, terrible take Timmy, just terrible.
You can call me what you want.
Yeah, my name's Gene Battaglia here on The Fan.
Listen to 95.7 The Fan Rochester on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps, and take the sports leader with you everywhere you go.
Inviting you to join us, Finger Lakes Gaming and Racetrack, Remedy inside of Finger Lakes Gaming and Racetrack this coming Friday. As we're going to have a lot of fun, 3 to 6. We'll have some good food. We'll just be hanging out and talking sports. Again, hope you can join Danger and I live on location this coming Friday here. The Fan Rochester out at Finger Lakes Gaming and Racetrack. Sal Carpaccio will be joining us in the 4 o'clock hour, bottom of the next hour. Also, PJ Glasser, your host, is Send It In on the BetMGM network. We got time for your calls, maybe, if you want to squeeze it in. 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Our buddy Mike in Sodas Bay writing in. And it's a good point, talking about teams that, hey, the Dodgers are so favored. We get to the end of this. How do the Blue Jays won this? Well, there's countless examples, and Mike apparently is a Cincinnati Reds fan. Tim, way back in the day, Oakland, the A's, which is crazy to think about this now.
What's in Oakland?
They were a machine.
Oakland?
Early
That's
90s.
not even a thing anymore.
I know. I know. For you younger kids out there, the Oakland A's with the Bash brothers and Dave Stewart on the mound, everything else, Tony La Russa is the manager. They got swept by Cincinnati, which, like, you look back, like, wait a second, that Oakland team only ended up with one World Series champion. They went to 3 straight, but they were heavy favorites against the Dodgers in '88. And that's
Was that the Kirk Gibson year?
Yep, that's Kirk Gibson in Game 1 with Eckersley, who was the best closer in the game. He's a Hall of Famer, hit it off of him. The next year we kind of forget about because they beat the Giants, but that got upstaged by the earthquake.
Yep.
And then, all right, then the A's coming back, and that was a talented Reds team that I think everybody kind of looked past. Barry Larkin, the shortstop. They had the Nasty Boys. Remember them? No, you wouldn't remember them.
Barry Larkin, I remember.
Yep.
The Nasty Boys, I might be familiar with, but I don't know them by that moniker.
Oh, Charlton. Who was the?
Okay, Norm Charlton.
Norm Charlton.
Sure.
There was the closer who became a sports radio show host with Patrick. That's going to drive me nuts. It'll come to me.
I'll use the cheat code called the internet.
The internet. Rob Dibble.
Dibble?
Rob Dibble, I got it. Beat the shot clock. Dibble. And I did not cheat on that.
Randy Myers.
Randy Myers was the other guy. Yeah, and Lou Pinella was the manager. They swept. And the thing I remember about that was, and this is a true story, when we talk about sports owners who are bad people,
Oh, yeah, I know this owner. I remember this one.
Yeah, like Marge Schott was genuinely, and it would take a lot, because she was an evil person. She was so livid that her team swept because it prevented her from getting another gate from Game 5, that she did not provide the team a celebration or whatever.
No
it was.
parade for you. No box office for me.
No, and then in that Game 4, the superstar outfielder for the Reds was Eric Davis. Davis gets hurt, and as I remember, like, to the point where he had to go to the hospital or something like that, couldn't fly back with the team. And they didn't provide him.
That's
like,
awesome. Great.
That's terrible. She's
Customer
a
service.
horrible human being, Marge Schott. Nobody can argue against that whatsoever.
I do remember some of the stories. Again, she was
We
on
don't-
the outs on my
Oh,
on
gosh.
my childhood, but man, she was
We-
of an era.
No,
No
like,
more.
No more. Like, shoot, like, it's. You want to read about Marge Schott? I don't know.
Yeah, you can use the internet for that one too.
Because, like, the way this works, Tim, is if we went into what Marge Schott was really all about, people half listen. And if I start telling the stories about Marge Schott, then people would say, "Oh my gosh,
That
did you
we
hear
said
what
it,
we
right.
said?" It like, no.
Safer not to.
Yeah, safer not to. Just terrible person. If you trust me, take my word on it. And she's long gone off this planet. The one thing Danger got right, he comfortably said, okay, you had all these options in Survivor football. You had the Colts 4th team, but that's a divisional game. You have Atlanta against Miami. Is Miami going to rise up? I mean, there's other things. You try to look at the other angle, and he's like, no, Washington is not going to win this game with Jaden Daniels out, officially out now, Tim. So it will be Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota, terrible.
And Marcus Mariota was the Jameis Winston draft year. He has been a journeyman for the duration of his career outside of the couple years with the Titans. Nothing to write home about anymore, and the Commander is going to be hoping and praying, and they've got some wide receiver injuries as well, so who knows what's to expect out of that. But I do know the Chiefs are back.
866-4FAN, 866-4326, the aforementioned Mike in Sodas Bay. Mike, how are you?
James, Eric Davis had a lacerated kidney.
That's what it was, yes.
He dove for a ball. They had to take one of his kidneys out, and she left him there.
It's terrible. It's horrible.
It's awful. That's awful. She made him pay his own way home.
How did the Players Association not say, wait a second here? What are we doing?
1990, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
A lacerated kidney, and she left him there.
That's terrible.
Because
Man.
they didn't get an extra day of gate.
That's that you remember this story as I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, terrible.
Absolutely.
Terrible. Well, good for pointing that out. And I would put thanks, Mike. I would put if the Jays pull this off against the Dodgers, that's one right there. Cincinnati beating Oakland. When we look back at it now, of course, the Reds team was good, but at the time, Oakland was coming off a World Series appearance. Oakland was heavily favored. Oakland was trying to make it 2 in a row, just like the Dodgers are trying to make it 2 in a row.
I'm looking forward to this just because of how down I think the public is on the Blue Jays. Again, the Dodgers are the favorites for some pretty obvious reasons, but nobody seems to be giving the Blue Jays a chance, and I would say it's closer to 50-50 than people are giving them.
Let's get to PJ Glass here, host of Send It In. Let's get his thoughts on, all right, Ernie Clement, World Series MVP.
Let's go.
Yeah. To play that. We'll also talk to Sal Capaccio as it is a very Bills newsy sort of day. We will get the latest that happened in practice as the Bills got some decisions to make in terms of, okay, who gets some playing time, who doesn't this week. Time for your calls maybe at the end of next hour. Our number 866-4FAN, 866-4326 here on the Fan Rochester.
The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Bills practice notes today. Josh Palmer, Daquan Jones, Taylor Rapp all not practicing, but back at work. Michael Hoyt, Larry Ogunjobi, and Maxwell Harrison. Sean McDermott on the return of these three.
It's good to have all three of those guys. Will get their first real practice today. So again, managing expectations. Let's get them integrated and get them rolling here. There's certainly a conditioning piece. There's a physical piece to it as well, and then there's a schematic piece to it also. So just trying to manage expectations and just take it one step at a time right now, one day at a time.
We'll talk more Bills later this hour. Sal Capaccio from WGR will be joining us. Amherst tonight in action. Home game number 2 of the season. Syracuse is the opponent. Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrooks will be by at 7 o'clock for the coverage here on The Fan. Sabres tonight on 96.5 WCMF at 7:30. They face Detroit. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Hour number 2 of the Sports Bar as we welcome you back. Danger is in Virginia today, but he'll be back here tomorrow. Terrible take Timmy along for the ride. Man, we haven't even opened a book yet on college football coming up this weekend. More great SEC action. The great PJ Glasser, your host, ascended and always good with his time, good with giving us some winners. We'll talk some NFL as well with you, PJ. But if we could start on this World Series, and the more I think about it, and there's instances like this in sports where, hey, this team is so heavily favored, and then, well, it is a sport like baseball where basically anything can happen. A ball here can go one way, the crowd in Toronto. I'm not saying this is going to be a Dodgers sweep, but what say you? How do you view this World Series? PJ, appreciate your time today. How are you?
Gene, I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm excited for the World Series. I feel like we all know the Dodgers are going to win. It's just a question of how many games. The Blue Jays, that lineup is really good. They could make it tough on the Dodger pitching staff. I think if you're looking for World Series MVP, Gene, because this has the potential of being a shorter series and there's a chance that maybe only one starter could get one start, I would probably look at some of the hitters, So if like Snell and Glasnow, if they're only going one start, or Yamamoto, obviously it doesn't feel like the value's there, whereas you would want those guys going 2, maybe even coming in for a relief appearance in Game 7, something like that. So I think you're better off looking at the hitters. We all know Freddie won last year. He had that grand slam in Game 1. Mookie Betts has been on fire so far. He would probably be my play right now. If you're the Blue Jays, I think you got to go with Springer or Vladdy. Those are their 2 leaders. They've been so great so far, coming up in clutch moments. So, Gene, I wish I could come on here, give you like a long shot, somebody down the board, but especially with the Dodgers, they have so many stars. It's going to be hard for one of those guys not to win it. I think Mookie would probably be the play. And then Blue Jays, if you think they're going to pull the upset, then look Springer, Vladdy. But I would go Dodgers in 6. That would probably be my guess. I do think the Blue Jays could get 2 games. But yeah, I think the Dodgers win the World Series.
Yeah, PJ, I'm going to give you another play, and this has bias, not written with a capital B. It's in all caps, and it's in neon. Bias, okay? But still, it's a fun fact, and you can use it for your show here. So in Major League Baseball history, there have been only 2 players that in their first 10 postseason games have at least 17 hits. My gosh, that's not quite 2 hits a game you're averaging, but pretty close. And then the qualifier here, only 2 strikeouts in those 10 games. One guy, beloved by Yankee fans, the late Thurman Munson, the catcher. The other being the pride of Rochester, New York, Ernie Clement. Where our guy Tim bet him at, what did you get, a 45?
Plus 4,500.
Yeah, plus 45. So your thoughts on Ernie? Can you get on the Ernie train here with us, PJ?
I absolutely can. I love that. Ernie's been he's been awesome, man. He's just a hit machine. And again, look, I mean, the Blue Jays they cause a lot of traffic. They put a lot of guys on bases, and Ernie usually bats in that 6-7 role with a lot of guys on base and can drive them through. So yeah, it's if you like Ernie, you obviously have to hope the Blue Jays are going to win the World Series. I just can't see a scenario where they lose and somebody on the Blue Jays wins MVP. Because Ernie's been so great, I could see him continuing it. So I like that. I like that Ernie look. Bo Bichette is going to come back too for the Blue Jays, and he should play in the World Series in some of those games. So maybe that takes a little shine away from Ernie as well, just adding another name. But yeah, especially if the value's right, like the Ernie look.
We're talking to PJ Glasser. You can hear weekdays on the BetMGM network. PJ, the SEC is vicious, and it's going to start off Saturday at noon, and you have an Ole Miss team coming off a loss to Georgia, and it's like, all right, that has to sting, and I don't know how these kids are going to kind of rebound, and wait a second, they're getting 5.5 points going to Oklahoma. Granted, Oklahoma's also 6-1. PJ, I don't have any idea. Is there a play to be had in this game?
I like the under, Gene, under 54.5. Ole Miss, when they played LSU, they beat them 24-19, and I think that's going to be the same kind of game. That's the best defense they have played by far. We think Georgia, we think Kirby Smart, we think elite defenses, and they're just not that this year, Gene, especially on the back end. Tennessee dropped 40 on them. Bama was able to have a ton of success. Ole Miss, obviously, last week. So I think people look at what that Ole Miss offense has been doing all year, what they did to Georgia, and they just think they're going to be able to do that against Oklahoma, but that's just not going to be the case. Sooners have a terrific defense. So I think this game is going to be played in the 20s. And Oklahoma's 7-0 to the under this year, Gene. Because they have John Mateer, I think a lot of people feel like they're kind of a higher scoring team. They're just not. So Sooners are a great under team. I think it's another good game to bet the under, and I think they're a good money line parlay piece. I don't want to lay 5.5 with Oklahoma, but I do think they win the game. So if you want to bet the side, look Oklahoma money line total. I like under.
Yeah, more example of like just how good the SEC is, because if you put South Carolina, say, in the ACC, I'm just wondering how that would look. Lenore Sellers is one of those quarterbacks. Like, okay, that you may be seeing him in the first round in an NFL draft coming soon. But is this going to be enough against Alabama? And Alabama has answered, 6 of the 7 challenges so far. They are giving the Crimson Tide 13.5. Is that too many heading to South Carolina, PJ?
It is, Gene, and I like South Carolina this week because the recency bias of Bama, right? They've won 4 straight games against ranked opponents, and Kellen DeBoer, as a head coach, is 19-3 in ranked games. He's unbelievable in those kind of spots. Bama plays a ranked team. He's going to win that game. But we already saw it earlier this year against Florida State, what happened when he went on the road as a double-digit favorite. We saw it last year against Vandy, Oklahoma, Michigan in the bowl game. Because they've looked so good as of late, people are forgetting what this team tends to do in these kind of games. And, Gene, wouldn't it just be so college football for them to beat 4 straight teams in a row? You're going through the gauntlet of the SEC, and then you drop a game like this, right? Mm-hmm. It happens a bunch to these teams. So this is South Carolina's Super Bowl. The heat is really picking up for Shane Beamer. They need a signature win. They have a great home crowd. They have a very good defense, and that's how you beat Bama as a big dog. You muck it up. You keep it ugly. You run the ball. You force turnovers. South Carolina can do those things. So until a Kellen DeBoer team can show me that they can go on the road and handle business and cover a spread like this, I can't take them, Gene, especially off of 4 straight wins. So I like South Carolina spread. Gene, I take some money line as well. I think this has the potential to be the upset of the week.
We are talking to PJ Glasser, host of Send It In, as this is such a great conference, PJ. We've got another ranked matchup that is going to be capturing our attention. 2 6-1 teams here. Number 15, Missouri. Number 10, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt being kind of the darling of this football season so far. And wouldn't you know, they against a 6-1 team, they are actually small home favorites. But is this the end of the line for the Commodores? What is the play here, Mizzou against Vandy?
So it is, yeah. I like Mizzou. I think they win outright if you just want to take them on the money line. So this line is the same as what Vandy LSU was last week. Vandy was a 2.5-point favorite in that game against LSU. And I think a lot of people looking at that game last week, Vandy 2.5-point favorite, and all the talk was, wow, can you believe Vandy's a favorite over LSU? The last time Vandy was favored over LSU was 1948. I mean, they're never favored against teams like this. So it was a shock. Now we look at Vandy favored over a Missouri team at 2.5 like this, and we just all think, that's it? Like, shouldn't they be favored by more? Like, Missouri's got this Diego Pavia kid. They're at home. It feels like they've had the better wins. They look better. So this is just one of those kinds of games, Gene, where there's a reason it looks easy. There's a reason they're not giving you that 3. They're daring you to take that 2.5. All Vandy has to do is just win by a field goal at home, right? Missouri, schematically, how they match up, the things that they do, I think can really give Vandy fits, especially with their run defense against that Vandy rushing attack. So I think it's going to be an upset. Small upset. I like Mizzou to win that game.
Yeah, another ranked matchup in the SEC, but we didn't think LSU would look like this entering the season. Now, they're still ranked. They're number 20. They're 5-2. Yeah. They get A&M, which is going to be fun, right? And Texas A&M 7-0 on the season. And I think back, and I forget exactly which game it was, PJ, where Brian Kelly at the postgame podium just got so defensive against the local media, saying, pointing to night games and everything, where the question was basically like, hey, like about this offense. And the people down there back then recognized this isn't really where it should be, and it hasn't come around. They don't run the ball very well. And I look at this, and I'm thinking, wow, LSU, it feels like it should be more. It feels like Texas A&M should be favored by more than 2.5. LSU, maybe it's the night game thing, getting the 2.5 at home. I'm thinking Texas A&M will cover here, but PJ, you're the expert. What do you say?
I like LSU, Gene. Give me another home dog in the SEC. Gene, it's a simple handicap. If LSU's at home at night and they're not playing Alabama, I'm taking them against whoever they're playing, especially if you're giving me a plus sign. So you can't overstate how difficult that place is to play in unless you're there, unless you're experiencing it. And we were talking about the Red River game a couple weeks ago, Texas, Oklahoma. And I told you guys that I liked Texas in that game because they had the 2 losses. They were desperate. They needed that game to save their season. It's the same thing again with this game. A&M's undefeated. LSU's got the 2 losses. And absolutely, they must win. They must win or they're out of the playoff, SEC, all those things. Must win for LSU. They're at home. And look, A&M's played 2 road games, Notre Dame and Arkansas. The scores of those games were 41-40 and 48-45. I promise you they're not scoring 40 at LSU against that defense at night. So what does A&M look like on the road when they have to punt a couple times, when they have a couple 3-and-outs? Like, what does that look like? I'm willing to bet against it, Gene. So, yeah, give me LSU at home.
So Tennessee, 2 losses on the season, but one being by 3 points to Georgia. Last week to the Crimson Tide, and Alabama really didn't have any problems there. So now Kentucky, congratulations Kentucky, you get the number 17 Vols. Are you feeling comfortable enough for Tennessee to lay? I'm looking at 9.5 in this spot, PJ.
I am, Gene. I like Tennessee. I think they win in a rout. Look, Kentucky, their last 3 SEC games, they've scored 13, 13, and 14 points. It's just not an offense that puts up a lot of points. They can keep it close, Gene, with teams that don't have a good offense. So Texas doesn't have a good offense. They can keep that game close. Teams like LSU, if they played them, Oklahoma, like those kind of teams, they could keep it close with, maybe pull off an upset because they can bring them down into the mid-teens, into the low 20s. Tennessee, the last 4 years, their offense has put up 28, 33, 38, and 43 points. So Heupel is very good against Mark Stoops in Kentucky. His offense has been difficult for them to stop. And I look at it as I don't see Kentucky getting more than 17 points. The magic number for Tennessee, I think, is 27. If they can get us to 27, I think they win, they cover. I like the Vols.
Well, let's look at some of the pro games here. And the Thursday night game isn't bad, PJ. It's the Chargers who really need this one. The team we thought would be content. Now, granted, they're still right in the mix in the AFC West. Minnesota coming off, that's a tough loss. You had your chances there, particularly at the end against Philadelphia. Do the Vikings clean this up? I'm seeing Minnesota getting 3 points. What is the play here, PJ?
I like the under, Gene. I like under 44.5, but only contingent on if McCarthy plays, because the fact that he's going up against former coaching staff at Michigan, right? Harbaugh and Jesse Minter, obviously there with him for a couple of years. So they know him so well. He's coming back from the injury. You have a Chargers team who gave up 38 to the Colts this past week. Minnesota gave up nearly 30 against Philadelphia. So both of these teams right now are kind of viewed as like the defenses are leaking. Maybe we get a little bit of a shootout. I think this is an ugly, low-scoring game, especially with the injuries on both sides and especially the Chargers. So I like under 44.5. Would lean Minnesota plus the 3.5, especially now that we're getting the hook, but I like the under better.
Thursday Night Football has brought us some surprises this year. Like, for example, I didn't think that game was going to be any good, and it ended up being very entertaining last week, Cincinnati over Pittsburgh. You have the Giants knocking off the Eagles. How did that happen? Oh, look here. We have the Eagles hosting the Giants, and the Eagles seemingly back on track as they're laying 7.5. The Giants coming off a brutal loss. For a young team like that, can they bounce back? PJ, your thoughts on this matchup in Philadelphia?
I like Philly, Gene. Look, it's going to be tough for the Giants to beat this team twice in 3 weeks, right? And so Philly has definitely been waiting for this game. But look, in the NFL, we talk about spots all the time, and something you always kind of look for is fading a team off an emotional road loss, right? Because then they got to get all back on the plane. It's quiet. They got to think about that loss all week, and they just can't wait to get back out there. Gene, I mean, you won't find a more devastating road loss probably than that one that we saw with Denver and the Giants. I mean, they gave up 33 points in the fourth quarter. They were up 19-0 in that game. So the Giants, who were riding such a high, they were so good. Dart and Scattaboo, they were injecting just a youth and an aura, a confidence to that team, and they went in there. Looks like they were going to upset the Broncos, and then just a heartbreaking loss. Now you got to turn around against the Philly team, who maybe figured some things out offensively against Minnesota, who is ready for the revenge after what you did to them a couple weeks ago. So I'd lay it with the Eagles. I like Indian Survivor this week. I wouldn't mess around. Just take the Colts against the Titans. If you couldn't take the Colts or you couldn't take Kansas City, I do think the Eagles would be the third best option this week.
All right, so do you get cute with the Ravens? No, they're 1-5.
No.
They've got to have this one, though, PJ. They're 6.5. They're getting some help back, you would figure, this week. The Bears coming off an okay win over the Saints. Are we ready to say the Bears are mature enough to go in and beat a Raven team, again, that really needs a win?
No, because the Ravens play the Jets in a couple weeks. They also have the Dolphins next Thursday, too, so you can use them in that game. Even though we've seen some Thursday night upsets, I don't know if that might be the best spot, but again, they are desperate. They have to win. So you do have some AFC East teams coming up that you can use. Gene, my fear for this game is everybody just expects Baltimore to come out of this bye week and just turn into the Ravens again, right? They're all, Lamar's back. These guys on defense are back. The schedule gets easier. They got to win. They got to go on a run. Guys are more focused. Lamar's back, all this. Like, what if Baltimore's the opposite of Indy this year, where with the Colts, we've been so used to seeing Daniel Jones so bad for so long that it's just tough for us to accept that he's actually really good now and the Colts are actually really good. And we keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it just never does. And we just have to accept Indy's really good. And, Gene, what if with Baltimore this year, because of the success they've had in the regular season, because of how good they've been the last 6-7 years under Lamar and all these things, what if we just got to accept that they're just not good this year, right? Like, what if it's just one of those years? All the Bears have been hearing all week is how the Ravens are going to roll. They're back from bye. They got to get on a roll. This is their get-right team. So, you'd be surprised what happens to these NFL teams when they hear all week something they can't do or how they can't stop, right? Worked out pretty good for the Bills last year in the playoff game against Derrick Henry, those kinds of things. So I like the Bears, but I think we're going to get a 7 because Lamar was back at practice today. I would expect him to play. I think that line goes up. So I wouldn't use the Ravens as Survivor this week. Wait a couple weeks. You got some easier games. But it's going to be interesting how they play. I'm just not convinced that they're just going to come back. They get all these guys, and they're just going to start rolling again.
PJ, one more for you. Give me 30 seconds on the Buffalo Bills and Carolina Panthers. The Bills, who had to sit with that, stew with that loss in Atlanta. Are the Bills going to bounce back and cover in Carolina this week?
I think they will, Gene. I think they'll take care of business. Now, the Panthers have been a much better home team. You do fear the Kansas City's upcoming, but the Bills usually don't look ahead the week before Kansas City because I feel like I bet against that the last few years and it doesn't hit. And like you said, off the bye with the way that they've played, I think it's a nice get right. I think the Bills win by double digits.
PJ Glasser, host of Send It In. PJ, tell everybody about the show.
Yeah, Gene, Monday through Fridays, we're on the BetMGM network, 1 to 1:30. No commercial breaks. We do rapid fire just like this, right? We hit all the sports and go around. So it's interactive. People can chime in, listen to the show, and check us out every day, Monday through Friday, 1 to 1:30.
Fantastic work, PJ. Appreciate this. Let's do this again next Wednesday. Thanks so much, PJ.
Absolutely. Thanks, Gene.
Thanks. We'll see you, PJ Glasser, your host of Send It In. One quick note, if you're interested, the look-ahead line for the Bills and Chiefs. Bills are actually underdogs.
As they should be at this point.
Kansas City favored by 1.5. Now, if the Bills are impressive and Kansas City in particular looks a little meh, that'll flip. But right now, if you think the Bills can beat the Chiefs, I don't think you're going to get a better price. That's just me than that, because I do think the Bills will take it to them. Well, let's get some more thoughts on the Bills. Sal Capaccio running a little late. Sal Capaccio from WGR will join us next year on The Fan.
Available every day at IHOP. $7 in some locations.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
A lot of Bills notes from practice today. Josh Palmer, Daquan Jones, Taylor Rapp, all not practicing. So, of course, returning to practice, Larry Ogunjobi, along with Michael Hoyt. Sean McDermott talking about that Carolina rushing attack.
The ability to have two guys is certainly, powerful and dangerous. There's very few in the league who have two. I think overall they bring a lot to the table in terms of what they do at the line of scrimmage and the tackles they break, and the numbers speak for themselves.
Sal Capaccio, WGR, and the Buffalo Bills Radio Network will join us next here in the Sports Bar. It's hockey night tonight in the Flower City. Home game number 2. Syracuse is the opponent. 7 o'clock for Don Stevens and Andrew Mossbrooks. The Sabres also in action tonight. Detroit the opponent. That game you can hear on 96.5 WCMF. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
They've raised the bar on Rochester Sports Talk. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Yeah, a lot happening in practice in terms of notes. Very newsy sort of day. Happy to be joined by Sal Capaccio, who is, of course, the beat reporter, WGR. You hear him on the Extra Point Show. And, of course, you hear him as part of the radio broadcast along with Brownie and Eric Wood. Again, 9 a.m. for the coverage, 1 o'clock kickoff Sunday. Sal, let's just kind of jump in. And it's a question I don't know we exactly know the answer to, and there's really not many parallels like this, but how are the Bills going to manage the two guys coming back from suspension, Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi? What kind of timeline is that, Sal? How are you today?
Pretty good. I think they jump right in. I think they play. I think they play Sunday. I don't think there's going to be much of a waiting period other than if the Bills find out that they're not as conditioned as they should be. That's what the process they're going through right now. But let's remember, these guys have been back at the facility for 3 weeks. They just couldn't practice in that time. And they got a lot of reps in preseason and camp because the team knew that this was happening. So I think they jump right in. And look, because of injuries on the D-line, particularly Daquan Jones, the defensive tackle, I think Larry Ogunjobi has to become a real big part of the rotation immediately. And I think Michael Hoyt's going to help out in the area where they, need pass rush, run help, everything on defense. So I don't think it's going to be much of a transition. I think they play right away on Sunday.
Yeah, that's certainly welcome for a team that has some injury concerns here. Josh Palmer's still in that week-to-week category. Yeah. And Sal, I'm just trying to think here, like who would be, if they got to reach into the practice squad, what are some of the, we already know Shavers is on the roster and we saw him in Atlanta, but what are some of the options if Josh Palmer can't go this week?
Yeah, I don't know if you have to do that because they have 6 receivers on the roster. I mean, having 6 already, sometimes they don't do that. They just go with, 5. So if Josh Palmer can't go, I think you just lean more into your 13 personnel a little bit. And that's, obviously 3 tight ends and Dalton Kincaid. Now, granted, he missed last game, but he's day-to-day right now. He was limited in practice today. So it shouldn't be they should be trending towards him playing on Sunday. So I Christian Wilkinson is probably the next man up on the roster as far as the practice squad, but I don't know if you want to go that route. It's possible for sure. But I think you're probably looking more at just, looking at more of a 3 tight end set, and leaning into that a little bit more if that's the case if Josh Palmer can't go.
Yeah, and then Taylor Rapp, which I'm not exactly sure when, you could, answer this, like when did he get hurt? What is the status for Rapp? And is this an opportunity perhaps that if he's not 100% or certainly if he can't go, who would be the next guy up there? Would it be Jordan Poyer getting elevated again? Would it be perhaps Hancock getting his first look here?
So apparently Rapp has been dealing with something since camp, maybe, the way Sean McDermott basically described it. But he did get injured in the game on last Monday night, but it was very late. He came out late, and I remember in the game, being on the sidelines, that it was so late it wasn't even like a report given to us, you know what I mean? But he definitely came off late because Cole Bishop had gone out and Jordan Poyer had come in for him, and then Bishop went back in, and then very late, Rapp came out, and Jordan Poyer went back in for him. And then today, McDermott said that they don't know yet if it's day-to-day or week-to-week. They're still determining that. They're evaluating. So that doesn't sound super promising, but hopefully he'll be okay. But in the meantime, Jordan Poyer is the next man up, I think. I mean, that's just what Monday night should tell us that, which is they elevated Jordan Poyer. He played meaningful snaps, and I thought he actually played pretty well, and he kind of settled the defense down a little bit when he was in there. So I think he's the next man up. I do think Jordan Hancock has a future to play that position here in Buffalo. And I mean, obviously here in Buffalo, he does, going long term, but I mean, like, even maybe shorter term at some point. Just don't know if that time is yet, because this defense right now, needs people who understand the structure of it. They have to tackle better. They need people like Jordan Poyer, someone like Jordan Poyer back there, maybe, like I said, to stabilize. I'd love to see what Jordan Hancock could give, but I think they, like him, having him in a special teams role right now. Remember, he recovered that blocked field goal, by the way, the other night. So here's the thing about it, though. They have one open roster spot right now. They have 52 on a 53-man roster. And they could use that to sign Jordan Poyer to the 53-man roster. They do have 2 elevations remaining for him, so you can play that game if you want. They could also use that to just basically sign him right now this week to the 53-man roster, and then you could use your elevations on 2 other guys. You only get 2 per week anyway. And one thing I've been thinking about is Gabe Davis is still on practice squad injured. Well, if they want him to start practicing at all, they're going to have to create a practice squad spot for him. So I think that could be Jordan Poyer being signed, and then you just make that transition because you only allowed a certain number of veterans on the practice squad anyway. So it's just some roster gymnastics. Could also be looking at Zion Logue taking that 53-man spot, the defensive tackle who's played well when he's been up, but they have no elevations left for him, but he's still on the practice squad.
So that 53 number right now, correct, that does include Hoyt and Ogunjobi, Sal?
Yeah, it's 52, though. They only have 52 on the roster right now.
Oh, 52, yeah.
Yeah, but yes, it does include them. They are on the roster. They officially transitioned back to the 53-man roster, but the team only has 52 on that 53-man roster right now.
Yeah, and one player that I don't think, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, we'll see this week, but it was good to see, if you look online, you see the practice video today, Maxwell Harrison. How did Harrison look to you, Sal, and clarify this, see if I have this right. The 21-day window means that the deadline would be the Monday after the Dolphin game, correct? Like, what's kind of the parameters of a player coming back here from IR?
Yeah, so he does not count on the 53-man roster right now. He is allowed to practice and do everything with the team. He is on injured reserve, but because of that, that's why you'll see him on the injury report, because once a guy comes back to practice and he's still on IR, you have to list him anyway so that you can kind of, because just for purposes of transparency of where he is in his rehab on what he's doing every day. So you'll see him on the injury report, but unlike everybody else in the injury report, he's actually not on the 53-man roster. The team opened up this 21-day practice window that does put that right after the Miami game, but they could activate him at any time. And if they feel that he looks good, he's ready, he can play Sunday. They would have to do it by 4 p.m. Saturday for this Sunday's game. They could wait. It could be for the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. They could wait. It could be a game against the Miami Dolphins. But if it's not, but they have to do it by then, because the day after that is the deadline. And then if you don't do it by then, he is out for the year, and you lose the guy for the year if you don't activate him. So yeah, they have 21 days, but within that 21 days, he can be activated any time. Now, I thought he looked explosive today, just watching him. Like he was out there. He looked fast. Didn't look like he had any hitch whatsoever. I mean, I still think it would be really ambitious, Gene, to think like he could play this week, but I almost want to stop myself short of thinking that much because of how well he looked out there running today.
It's you hear this, but if you could put it in your own words yourself, because we hear about just being in shape, but then football shape, like how much of that and the callousness, and you don't want somebody to come back and pop a hamstring or something like that. How much of that is a factor?
It's a lot. I mean, it's that, and it's the mental reps, right?
Yeah.
Sean McDermott said today, he said he was asked how much of it is the mental side of knowing the defense, and not that he doesn't know the defense, but there's a difference between watching it and seeing it on paper than putting it into practice when you're on the field, right? And Sean McDermott said at least 50% of it for that. So even if the Bills felt Max Harrison was ready to rock and roll, he looked great, he's perfect shape, even if they felt that, you still got to be able to trust him to play defense and know that he knows where to be, when to be there, to not make mistakes and those kinds of things. So that's a big part of it. And then there is football shape. And this is a great point because of what we saw in training camp. These guys come back in shape because they've been working out. But the reason you get so many injuries in camp a lot is you're not in football shape. You're not doing that quick twitch stuff you always do, when you're working out on your own, and you're not doing all the football movements. And that's why you hurt a hamstring, you hurt a calf or something like that. So you got to be careful with all of that, and that's why they have medical staff, and that's why they have sports science, and that's why they have trainers monitoring all these things that are going on with Maxwell Harrison and Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi.
One player I really liked in camp, and the little bit we saw in the New Orleans game was Dorian Strong. And Sal, it was addressed today, Sean McDermott. It doesn't sound like this is anything that's going to be happening for the Bills anytime soon, correct?
I don't think so either. You feel really bad for the kid. The neck injury that showed up a few weeks ago, Sean McDermott said that they're going to evaluate. They put him right on IR. And they're going to continue to evaluate. And then today the word was research. We're still doing more research on that. So not really sure where that stands. I will say that he's out. He's walking around the field house and practice with his teammates.
Okay.
So we see him. He's out there. He's just not practicing with them. So obviously that's encouraging and nice to see. But at this point, I don't think anyone should count on Dorian Strong coming back anytime soon.
1 o'clock kickoff in Charlotte, North Carolina. Bills and Panthers coming up on Sunday. Sal Capaccio is our guest. Sal, you're at practice. Like, what was the vibe at practice? Coming off that loss to Atlanta, and then you get a week off. Give us kind of the flavor of what practice was like here today.
Yeah, well, the media, we can only watch a little bit. We watch stretching, and then we watch the guys do like what they call individual position work, and then we have to leave and then come back. But, in that little bit of it, I think all eyes from the media were focused on the three guys. Maxwell Harrison. By the way, real quick note for everybody. I specifically said to Max Harrison, I said, do you prefer to be called Maxwell or Max? So everybody knows going forward. He said, I prefer Max because my mom called me Maxwell when she would be mad at me, which we all can relate to. But then Elena Getzenberg of ESPN.com said, what about in print? He said, in print, I do prefer Maxwell. So, print Maxwell, conversation Max, just so everybody's aware of that. That's what he said. But that was the vibe of practice, meaning like it was kind of cool to get back and get to know these guys a little bit and to talk with them. And I think that was it. Otherwise, I felt Sean McDermott before practice was very businesslike. You could get the sense of urgency, so to speak, but the sense of, hey, we need to really button up and be detail-oriented. And I think really the message I think came out today was the Bills this past week and a half, this week they were off, was about them and getting right. It wasn't about game planning for the Panthers. Yeah, they're doing that. But it's about what do we need to do to be better because we have not been good enough. And, McDermott even said there's more. We are capable of playing at a higher level, but it's detail and discipline that leads to execution. And that detail hasn't been there. They've had turnovers. That discipline certainly hasn't been there. There's been penalties, and I think there's been a lot of focus. And to me, when I was out there today, I think that's what you could see, that was what the focus was on, making sure and, being buttoned up on those things.
Yeah, I mean, there was the pre-snap penalties. That's the stuff that I'm sure would drive kind of coach nuts. And I totally understand why the Bills are like, this is more about us. But that being said here, Sal, I would imagine they're preparing for Andy Dalton. I know the Carolina Panthers saying, well, I don't know, it could be Bryce Young. There has to be a different sort of preparation between these two quarterbacks, is there not?
I'm sure there is in some capacity, but you're not going to get from the Bills who they're preparing for, right? So I asked McDermott specifically, what's the challenge in preparing for two different quarterbacks? And he said they're both good quarterbacks. I mean, that was it, right? So you're not going to get like, oh yeah, we think Andy Dalton's going to play, or we think Bryce Young's going to play. They'll have an idea. And I would think for me sitting here, I think it's probably more likely Andy Dalton. I mean, Bryce Young was on the practice field today for the Panthers with no boot and no noticeable limp from what reporters said, but he didn't practice. He was off to the side. He was a non-participant. So that, to me, starts to lead towards what the reports were on Sunday night, which were that he's going to miss at least one game. So that would be Andy Dalton. And, yeah, they're different quarterbacks. But, at the end of the day, you're preparing for a system. Right, you're preparing for a system. They're not going to change the system with Andy Dalton and Bryce Young. What they're going to do, though, is maybe have more of the ability to do more drop back or roll out or something like that. But the system's going to be the same. The routes are going to be the same predominantly, and the players catching the ball are going to be the same. I think at the end of the day, Gene, this game comes down to the Bills stopping the run game of the Panthers, not Andy Dalton or Bryce Young. This game comes down to, can the Bills be better against the run than they have been? Because Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard are really good, and they're averaging, Rico Dowdle's averaging 5.5 yards a carry. as a team, they're averaging close to 5 yards a carry, and the Bills have not stopped the run. They just have to stop the run this week. That's what this is about.
Yeah, and so many injury notes here. We haven't even gotten back to the linebackers. Now, we saw that Bernard listed as limited and Milano listed as limited. Do you give those guys extra rest? I mean, your thoughts on Shaq Thompson, Dorian Williams? At least you have different options there, Sal, at the second level in terms of stopping the run.
Yeah, I mean, limited for Bernard and Milano, but that's, kind of expected coming off the injuries from last week and missing games. And good to see Milano back out there as well. But they were both out there. They were both in regular jerseys, no red non-contact jerseys or anything like that. So that was good to see. I think that trends well towards them playing on Sunday, both Milano and Bernard. In the meantime, Shaq Thompson's played well. And I think that, it's kind of clear now that he's taken over the backup linebacker spot from Dorian Williams in that role. And Dorian's become more of a special teams guy. I like the way Shaq Thompson has played. But look, I think I always say Larry Hoyt. I knew a guy named Larry Hoyt. Michael Hoyt and Larry Hoyt, Joby. Michael Hoyt, though, I think also factors into this. He could, if you really needed him to, you could stand him up. He could play strong side linebacker. You can add him into a 3-linebacker set. You can add him into a 5-man front on the pass rush. So I just think that Hoyt really allows for so much more versatility at the linebacker spot. But at this point, what I saw today, I think the Bills should have a healthy complement of linebackers available.
To think that 8 years doesn't seem like that long, Sal, but 8 seasons ago, that was the last time the Bills were in Charlotte. That was Sean McDermott's actually his first road game there, and it ended up being a tight loss with Tyrod at the quarterback. You were there that day. I don't know if you have any recollections, but my question is, what is this? What kind of – I don't picture this as being a hostile environment as compared to other spots here in the NFL.
So even back then when the Bills were really – they hadn't even broken the drought yet, right? This year they did it. And the Bills did start off with a win that first game that year against the Jets. But even that year, just tons of Bills fans, right? I mean, Charlotte is known as Buffalo South. None of us who live in Buffalo – I should say everyone who lives in Buffalo knows someone who moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? I mean, somebody who moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, I guarantee you. It's just the way it is. I think they even opened an Anchor bar in Charlotte. I'm not kidding you, in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's just so many transplants down there. Back then even, though, there were a lot, and that wasn't even when this team – the Bills Mafia has always traveled, but they travel even so much more now that the team is good. And now that they can go watch their team and feel good about – just go to see Josh Allen, right? And I'm not kidding when I expect this to be like half the stadium at least maybe Bills fans. It's going to be incredible. It really is. The recollection I had about that game, I don't know if you remember. So towards the end of the game, Tyrod throws the ball down to Zay Jones on a 4th down. If Zay Jones catches it, the Bills are set up and maybe win the game. And there was a big debate on if it was an overthrow, if we should have caught it. I think it was a little bit overthrown, but maybe should have caught it. It's really a tough call to say. And I was super, it was right in front of me, that play. And I remember that play and that ball coming down. I'm like, oh, my God, Zay Jones is wide open. And if he catches the ball, if Tyrod puts it on him, the Bills probably win that game. But it was just a little bit off, and that was the 4th down that ended the game.
I remember this play, and I remember the debate, and I remember thinking that was on Zay Jones because if he's running the pattern, you have the open space, and that's where Tyrod was thinking he would take it. It's the nonverbal stuff between quarterback and wide receiver, and there's countless examples of this. You have the play between Josh Allen and Gabe Davis, whose fault was it? But I always that is the play that the Bills win that game, Sal. There's no doubt in my mind if that pass is completed.
No, I agree with you, and that's something I remember from that game. And the Bills only play this team once every 4 years unless they match up with each other in that extra game, division-wise and standings-wise. But, the Panthers, they haven't been as good, and the Bills have been, winning the division the last 5 years, so that hasn't happened. They matched up with the Buccaneers from the NFC South the last time they had to have that, one-game matchup. So this is going to be a team. And by the way, how about this? So Josh Allen, going into this year, there are only 3 NFL stadiums he has not played a regular season game. Atlanta, which now he has. Carolina, this one is another one. And then the last one.
Don't jinx it. I know which one you're going to say, and I know that there's going to be a game played there in February.
Yes,
so
that's right. So, I mean, this will be his first chance to play inside the stadium. But I expect I was looking at the weather. It's going to be really nice. I mean, it's like 80 leading up to the game, but I think only it's like 70 degrees for the game. It should be beautiful weather and lots of Bills fans there.
That story you shared about, hey, call me Max, not Maxwell, that gets me in trouble. I can relate to that a little bit. Can you relate to that at all, Salvatore?
Of course, Salvatore. I mean, somebody's pointed out on Twitter, and they're right. The longer the name went, the more Mom was mad at you, right? So I'm Sal, but if my mom was upset at me, it's Salvatore. But if she's really mad, it's Salvatore Antonino. That's my middle name.
Yeah, I was. If I was in trouble, it was Eugene Paul.
That's
how I knew. Sal, Extra Point show Friday. I know that's Must Listen to Radio with the coach coming on. Tell everybody about that and where they can get more of your content this week.
Yeah, actually, and Matt Bove and I today from practice, we actually, in between the time where we watched practice and then we went back into the field house for interviews, we actually recorded an Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast from right there in the press box. So I invite people to go watch that on YouTube. We have a lot of thoughts on everything we saw from Max Harrison, Larry Ogunjobi, and Michael Hoyt, and their return to the practice field, a little bit on the Carolina Panthers, what the Bills are needing to do here with the loss of Josh Palmer, it appears. So we got that for you. It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. You can find that always on my YouTube channel, at Sal Sports, and, of course, wherever you subscribe to podcasts, you can listen in audio form as well. And then Friday morning, Sean McDermott always gives me the injury report on his weekly radio interview before it's released to the public. So that's always must-listen radio, and that's going to be on the Extra Point Show, which airs 10 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Sal, appreciate the time. Safe travels down to Charlotte, and for every fan, it'd be good if the team came back with a win. Thanks for the time, Sal.
You got it, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sal Capaccio, our producer today, co-host Timothy Schneider.
That is my name.
What's your middle name?
Michael.
Oh, Timothy Michael.
Yep, I've heard that a couple times.
Yeah,
not recently, which I think is good, but yep,
that's
PTSD something there. That name rings hollow.
Okay. Listening to that, takeaways. I think they're going to go with Jordan Poyer. I think that hearing Sal say he thinks the next guy up wouldn't be Hancock, it would be Jordan Poyer. Jordan Poyer wasn't bad which this is where we are with the defense. He wasn't bad. And Jordan Poyer, you at least knows where to be. I think he can still tackle. I still think about James Cook running by Jordan Poyer, the Dolphin, making it look comical in week 2 last season.
I think the Bills are in a rough spot no matter what, because there will be questions like, do you go with the rookie? Do you throw him into the fire? Or do you go with, for lack of a better word, the old timer, the guy who's been there, the guy who knows the system? You can pick one. Either one is a poison. You just have to hope that it works out well. Like, they're in a spot now defensively where they aren't getting the contributions necessary for this team to feel good about itself week in and week out. Going with Poyer, fine. But also, don't you want to give that young guy a shot and see what you've got in him?
I do. But then this is where maybe they're thinking he's not ready yet.
If he's not ready, he's not ready. But also, at some point, you have to be ready. Otherwise, what are you doing?
He's a late round pick, depth guy. Like the idea that you're saying one of your draft picks, you're bringing back Jordan Poyer at this point. And again, we don't know for sure, but with Rapp not practicing and, come to find out he actually got hurt in the fourth quarter and didn't know about it. I think it opens the door for you to cleanly make a transition to say, hey, we're going to try this. And if it blows up, oh my gosh, Jordan Poyer, he's terrible. Then okay, well, Rapp is healthy and you bring him back in and everybody saves face. I think it's a very nice, clean way to do this. Happy hour's on the way when we invite your calls. 866-4FM. We have talked a lot of Buffalo Bills. If you're just kind of jumping in, we'll bullet point everything, as it was a very Bills newsy day out in Orchard Park. We will talk some baseball. The World Series starting up in a few days, which is, right across the lake. So this is really interesting. Whatever you would like to talk about in happy hour, 866-4FN, 866-4326. Danger is off today. Tim Schneider in for him. My name is Gene Battaglia here on The Fan.
This is The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
WROC AM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Not practicing for the Buffalo Bills today. Josh Palmer, Daquan Jones, Taylor Rapp. Back at practice, however, Michael Hoyt, Larry Ogunjobi, and Maxwell Harrison. Sean McDermott on the plan for these three.
It's good to have all three of those guys. Will get their first real practice today. So again, managing expectations. Let's get them integrated and get them rolling here. There's certainly a conditioning piece. There's a physical piece to it as well, and then there's a schematic piece to it also. So just trying to manage expectations and just take it one step at a time right now, one day at a time.
Bills and Panthers, 1 o'clock from Charlotte this coming Sunday here on The Fan. Tonight, we've got Amherst hockey. Syracuse is the opponent. 7 o'clock for the coverage. The Amherst falling in Syracuse this past Saturday. Sabres hockey tonight can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. Detroit is the opponent. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
One win. That's it. One win since the 2022 season at quarterback for Andy Dalton. Welcome back to the sports bar. Danger's off today. He'll be back tomorrow. Terrible take. Schneider is in here. But you there's no terrible take to have here. You talked about him being a journeyman here. Since Cincinnati, the teams he's played for, Dallas, Chicago. I don't remember New Orleans. Apparently he started 14 games for the Saints. But since that point, he's been in Carolina. And again, just one win with the Panthers that came last season. Since 22, 10 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. A quarterback, Tim, that at this point, at age 37, you cannot lose to Andy Dalton. This isn't Aaron Rodgers. This isn't Joe Flacco. This is somebody that has been a backup in this league since the 2019 season. So what are we doing here? What are we doing?
That's a guy. What's the phrase? Here's a guy that is he's a nurturer. He's a locker room guy who he's been able to maintain employment because he brings value to that quarterback room, but he no longer possesses the talent to be a QB1. Bryce Young, for factual purposes, doesn't really possess those things either. But Andy Dalton is a quarterback who had a great career in Cincinnati. Didn't do enough to get to where their end goal was, but he was fine. He was a good quarterback, a serviceable, average quarterback. That is no longer. He is a 37-year-old guy who is used sparingly, and when he is used, the results aren't all that bountiful. If the Bills cannot get over Andy Dalton, that is more than alarming. That is a damning loss if that is to happen.
No, this is you don't get a cookie for beating the Carolina Panthers and Andy Dalton. I'm sorry.
Do your job.
Yeah, do your job. And I think it'll be one of those games, just like kind of the Saints game, where like, well, there were some problems in the Bills' run defense. Just saying, for example, there will be some things we will pick apart. But if Josh Allen is just doing his job with that offensive line and James Cook, do not get cute in this game. And by that, I mean 3rd and 1, run at Josh or hand it off to James Cook. No end around nonsense. No handoff to the tight end nonsense. Just tell this team, this is what we're going to do and stop us. Great teams act like that. You don't need the chicanery here against this team, because if you do your job in that regard, the turnovers should actually come. They should be plentiful in this game. But my fear is, Tim, is this, that anybody wants to join us at 866-4FN, 866-4326, is that, hey, the Panthers can run the ball. Yeah, but, that Dolphin defense, like they're a bunch of quitters, and Dallas is one of the worst run defense. Do we think the Bills' run defense is any good? I'm just asking here. Talking to Sal Capaccio last hour, and we don't know this for sure, but storyline out of today, some of the stuff we expected. Okay, here's going to be Hoyt and Ogunjobi. They're coming back. Sal says, yeah, you could expect to see him on the field. To what degree, we don't know. Hey, Palmer still week to week, not out there. Daquan Jones not out there. Okay, not a surprise. Other guys like Bernard limited, not a surprise. Wait a second. Taylor Rapp not practicing? When did he get hurt? Well, Sal told us it was right at the end of that game. Who knew? All right.
If you say so.
This show, we never second guess anything. We never question anything. Like, let's just say if you were thinking about making a change and you wanted to save face, like, hey, Taylor, that knee, why don't we take practice off today and Thursday and maybe Friday? You're still getting a paycheck with the team. We just want to get a look at some other guys here. Taylor Rapp's the type of guy that wouldn't run to the media and complain about something like that. I don't think. And again, this Tim, maybe he really is hurt, but to what degree? I just think that it provides a nice little path to say, Jordan Poyer, come on back up here this week. I'm not concerned about Andy Dalton beating you deep.
Yeah,
you don't need the safety. You need the safety dropping down in the box to make a damn tackle. And that Jordan Poyer, I can tell you can still do that in this league.
At this point in the season, everybody is banged up. It's whether or not you want to use that to your advantage as a team to allow other people in without creating drama from outside. Like, we're going to question it. We do wonder, is this legit or not? But it gives you the out of saying he is hurt. We are looking at other options out there because somebody has to fill that role. Whether that does end up being Rapp, to be determined. But if it's not, it's got to be somebody, and it's going to be Poyer or Hancock, and it appears as though they're leading Poyer.
Yeah, like anything else, nothing is absolute because, yes, Rapp made a great, fantastic interception against the Saints. Yes, Bishop did, getting my safeties mixed up. Rapp was the guy who chased down Drake London and prevented a touchdown, which in the end, I mean, can you imagine if the Falcons had scored in that fashion at the end of the first half, we would be losing our minds. The Bills came that close, and you have Rapp to thank you for saving face on that. But by and large, the safety play has been terrible this year. And it's a profession where, hey, that may sound mean and overly critical, but you see it with your own two eyes. If we see it, you don't think the coaches can see it? And you don't think, well, the problem is I don't know if the Bills actually think that the guys behind him are any good. If they did, well, we would have perhaps saw Jordan Hancock a little earlier. Now, he did get hurt at the end of the preseason, so there's that. I just think it's a great opportunity against a team that doesn't have a quarterback that you're staying up at night. If this were the Chiefs, Tim, you're not doing this. I'm sorry. You would be like, okay, we've got to really make sure that we're getting Taylor Rapp all ready for this. It's Andy Dalton. It's a good time to maybe see if Jordan Poyer still has it in this league.
A week from now, having the same exact conversation, the narrative that we are providing is completely different because next week it is the Chiefs. And not knowing the outcome of this game, if we go in with the expectation that they are victorious and things are good again in Buffalo, that's fine. And then you're on to the next one, which would be, to this point, the biggest test of the year, the now surging Kansas City Chiefs. A month ago, the Chiefs are weak. This is Buffalo's conference to lose. And now it's back to the Chiefs being
Tim, it'll be something different in November. It'll be something different in December. That's what we love about this league. It's going to change from week to week.
It's a new season every week.
Yeah, it's like the things that were important to us a month ago on September 22nd, I have to go look at my show notes from that day. Like, I have no idea. Like the stuff that we're talking about today will be completely different when we get to Friday, November 21st. That's just kind of a fact. Actually, Friday, November 21st, that will be the day after the Houston Thursday night game. So we're in happy hour. You're welcome to join us at 866-4FN, 866-4326. You can write to us, The Fan Rochester. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. We're streaming for free. And the Odyssey app is doing the show in Rochester. Love our hometown. Timmy from Fairport. I currently live in Spencerport, but I'm from here. Grew up in Greece. So there you go. That's what we're all about here today. If you are my age, you remember, hey, in the 90s, the Jays were the team. Joe Carter, we see the highlight of Joe Carter jumping around there, but you almost forget all the talent they had on that team between Paul Molitor and Dave Winfield. And not to mention, like, the pitching with Steve and Roberto Alomar. And, yeah, the Jays were the team. And then the strike happened and then kind of soured everybody. And then now here we are, Tim. How many years? Checks notes. 32 years later, the Jays are back. The story from the Jays today, other sports accommodating the Toronto Blue Jays. So maybe there was one person that, hey, let's go to the Sabre game in Toronto. Should we, hon? Yeah, let's do it. Let's make a weekend in Toronto. Well, if you did do that on Saturday, just be advised that the face-off time now is 5 o'clock Saturday, just to move it up so that everybody can watch the Jays game at the proper time. At least, Tim, for the game in Buffalo, I guess it was originally 7. They moved it to 7:30. Now it's back to 7 o'clock. Okay, that's not a big deal. At least they didn't ask the Sabres, hey, can we make that game on Friday at 4 o'clock? Is that possible?
Maybe moving it to Sunday just so they don't even have to avoid it at all. This home and home with the Sabres takes a backseat to everything that the Blue Jays are doing. And I understand moving that game up, especially the congestion that would take place in Toronto. It's going to be chaos anyway, but if you're having two major events going on at the same time in the same vicinity, that's just absolute chaos.
Well,
so you've got to avoid it.
Yeah, I guess in my little life hack, if you're ever going up for the weekend, just do it halfway. Take the train in halfway. Like, you go over the border, and just as you're trying to make the turn, as you get past Hamilton, you'll see the signs for Appleton. And that's where, okay, and there's a commuter lot. You park for free. And you get on the train. I'm not saying get on the train for free because they make you go buy the ticket. I'm just saying that, I don't know, maybe sometimes the conductor doesn't come by. I don't know. You pay for the ticket, but then you're not paying for parking, and then you're just taking the train ride in. Tim, when I did that before, okay, it wasn't the World Series, but it was all Jays fans. That train, it wasn't like, stuffed in like Tokyo rush hour, but it was still full enough. So your point about congestion, sure. Like Toronto, traffic in Toronto is the worst traffic I've ever experienced. Now hear me out, because I, for years, went to school down in New York, and I had friends in New York, and I've experienced the Long Island Expressway. Toronto, I put ahead of it. I've been to L.A. a couple times. I've never experienced what real L.A. traffic is like, but I'm like, how bad can it be? There's like 10 lanes each way. To me, Toronto traffic is horrible. Toronto traffic could be Sunday afternoon. Like, what are we doing sitting here? So that is really the main deterrent for a lot of people going up to Toronto. It's just having to deal with that.
A traffic World Series between the L.A. Dodgers and Toronto Blue Jays. And, I mean, that is cross more country. It's cross-international travel. And we're going to get, hopefully, a good series out of these two teams, and traffic be damned.
Yeah, traffic be damned. I think it's one of those stories where everybody is thinking, okay, is the Dodgers in 4? We'll give the Jays a pat on the head and make it Dodgers in 5. I don't know, Tim. It just feels like this could be more Jays than we think. If they get the split, then it's on.
I'm there with you. I think the Blue Jays could come out of this. I think that the a fair assessment. The Blue Jays are the Dodgers rather are a supremely talented team. They're the favorites for a reason. They don't have many glaring holes outside of a bullpen that's been patched up by starters that have been moved to the bullpen because you only need 3 starters. And you've got a team in Toronto that has been brought together by role players that have succeeded so well in their roles that I think again, I'm not going to put money on it, but I think the Blue Jays win this World Series.
Wow. Well, sorry for every Jays fan. Terrible take. Timmy has just cursed
that is
your
thing
team.
Also.
And then, as we learned earlier today, at 45-1, Tim put money on, which I would have thought it would have been 80-1, 100-1 for Ernie Clement, World Series MVP. No, there's money going on. Who would have thought that? Rochester's own Ernie Clement, World Series MVP, 45-1 odds.
I'm all for it. If it happens, again, when the odds are that high, it's pretty unlikely. But if it does, I wouldn't mind profiting off of it.
Our phone number, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Mike and Seabreeze. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Gino. So I know what you were doing on September 22nd because I called in with my huge, bold prediction that Kansas City wouldn't win until this weekend, which I was totally wrong, right? And
you own it. That's good. I mean, we all have our bad predictions, and we'll review them at the end of the year. But
I do own that.
Yeah.
And I think Atlanta has the worst traffic. I don't know if you've ever been there, but they have the worst traffic.
I've heard Atlanta. I've heard Nashville's brutal too. But I don't know. I would put top Toronto. Thank you very much for the call, Mike. Worst traffic. I guess, see, there are benefits for living in Rochester. I think it's hilarious. Like, things that we receive but we didn't ask for, driving into the city. Hey, it's only 2 minutes to Culver Road. Or if I'm coming in from the west side, hey, 5 minutes to downtown, 8 minutes to the airport. Like, things I didn't ask for. The traffic on the scoreboard updates as you're driving along. Like, okay, yeah, like every other day mainly here.
It's pretty beneficial, but again, if we do it every day, we kind of already know the answer to that question.
Right.
It is helpful when there's an accident and you can reroute on the fly, you audible right there, but we're so technology
how are you
adept.
rerouting in Rochester, though? Like, honestly, what is
you
like
take
the
an early
alternate?
exit?
I guess, yeah.
So let me bring you back to a time where I got myself into some trouble here. I was coming in.
Time out. You got into trouble?
Yeah, can you believe it?
I don't know.
It was I can't even think of the name of it, but they do the 5K out here downtown.
It's called the Corporate Challenge.
Yeah.
You're really going to bring this up because I know the story and it's going to just make me angry.
All right, then we can skip it. But
angry because you should have been here, you should have known, and you were late.
I wasn't aware of it. That's something.
Well, I'm not aware. I didn't know. I'm Tim. I didn't know.
I didn't know that the Corporate Challenge was taking place, and I got bounced around by police officers saying that I couldn't come in here, couldn't go in there. I had to go around 4 different exits and then create my own inner loop basically to get here.
Well, the thing is where our studios are, like, I love our building, but we're kind of secluded. Like, where we are between the expressway and the river, and by expressway I mean like the inner loop, and I don't know what they're going to end up doing with that, but there's only really one way in and one way out. I mean, it's not too. You don't really have many options.
I got told by 3 different police officers that I could not go in, which makes sense because it was closed, but there was literally no way in, to the point where I had to get out of my car, walk to the police officer and explain, I've been told no, and no, but the answer has to be yes. Please let me through.
I remember getting a text from Danger, and the text simply read, I'm going to kill Tim.
I believe it.
And I'm like,
that was a bad day.
I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but okay. He did not. We wouldn't.
I'm still alive.
Yeah, you're still
alive. Yeah, that was when traffic becomes traffic in Rochester, and you're not ready for it. Then that's the one positive, I guess, is being prepared.
Yeah. So 866-4FAN, 866-4326. The NBC broadcast. You didn't watch this last night. I did. Okay, the Rombell Rock theme, great. Okay, it's Mike Tirico, and it sounds like every NFL game between the bumper music, and we've got Maria. Here's what was different. When teams bring in, hey, we're bringing back so-and-so, and we're going to lean on his insight. Take, for example, the NHL and Wayne Gretzky. And then they put him behind the desk, and he's just going to burp up, whatever bland commentary. Yeah, they need to really work on this and that and that. When I heard that NBC was bringing in Michael Jordan, I'm like, okay, this probably will be the same thing, and he's really not going to say anything. Oh, that felt different. If you watched that last night, so here's Jordan, and it's in his home. Okay, you can tell, all right, it's a really nice home, and it's not the home that you saw the It must be a different room or something. I just know the one room they sat him down in the the Last Dance documentary, and it's Mike Tirico. And I really don't have any expectations for this, but it's just going to be Jordan's thoughts. And for a guy that doesn't speak off the cuff, and then just Tirico asks, like, "Hey, do you miss it?" And Jordan just quite out flesh. If I could take a magic pill and be who I was, basically, and get back out there. It's like, whoa, okay. He's telling you, and you just cannot replace it. Then, all right, well, if you miss it that much, when was the last time you picked up a basketball? He's like, years. Like, what? How can that be? You haven't picked up a basketball in years. You're Michael Jordan. He's like, no. And I think part of it is, like, if I can't do it anymore, why would I want to? And then Jordan catches himself like, oh, no. Okay, here's the story. So he is at the Ryder Cup. This just happened, right? And who knew that Michael Jordan is doing an Airbnb, right? Can you imagine that? You're like, Ryder Cup, Airbnb. Okay, well, who do you... Oh, my gosh, it's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's taking... So the owner of the house is, and he's got his family there, and these kids don't know who Michael Jordan is.
Right.
Okay, so maybe they've heard of him. They don't know. Dad is freaking out. Wouldn't you know, in the backyard, and again, you would figure, like Michael Jordan, he's not standing at my house. He's staying there's a basketball court. So the guy, as he's giving the lowdown or whatever, is, oh, can you just shoot one bucket at the line for me?
That's such a story.
So Jordan says, are you kidding me? This is what he's thinking to himself. Are you kidding me? I just paid you. Okay, can I just be... Okay, fine. And then Jordan realizes, and he's telling us to Tirico, he hadn't been this nervous in a long time. Because now, here's this dad who's just built him up as these kids never heard of him, the greatest basketball player of all time. And he's going to make this shot. Watch, kids. And now here's Michael Jordan, who just got done telling you he hasn't picked up a ball in since who knows long. So Jordan's saying, I was shaking. I was nervous. I could feel my heart beating. And Tirico's like, come on. He's like, yeah. And then Tirico's like, so what happened? Jordan. Of course I made it.
Michael Jordan.
Of course I made it.
The gamer of all gamers. Even when only the circumstances matter to him, he's going to come in the clutch.
But see, that's different. Like when you're watching, and it was FS1, hey, wow, what a great game. Jays over the Blue Jays, and now we go to the desk with A-Rod and Jeter. And, okay, well, what? That's not a form where you're really kind of getting any insight. They get to say something for 15 seconds. Maybe this kind of changes the paradigm of how we look at these halftimes and these pregames. Like, give me more long-form stuff. And they told you this pretty much. The credit card company's paying for this. They made you, well aware who's paying for Michael Jordan to do this. But if Jordan can just sit down and pick a topic and pick a story. Okay, Tim, I think there's this gap for NBA fans. Hi, I'm Mr. Gen X guy here. I'm a Knicks fan. But, man, I respected the heck out of Michael Jordan. And you know what happened? I don't know. The NBA life, I get busy. I don't watch as much. But I remember the good old days, right? This is going to pull in a whole different audience that, okay, I'm watching this game tonight. But every Tuesday at halftime, I'm going to hear from Michael Jordan, who almost is like you hear this stuff, you're ready to do a better job in whatever it is you do. That is the definition of greatness. Michael Jordan. And don't give me like LeBron, please.
We could go back and forth on the LeBron MJ thing.
I don't want to.
But Jordan does bring out, like, when you have that kind of talent sharing those kind of insights and stories, it makes for a better product and something that is worth tuning into. Like, I love listening to Bizanet on a hockey show, but he wasn't a very good NHL player, so it doesn't really hold as much weight as something like Wayne Gretzky having that same kind of personality. When superstars of that caliber, like the greatest of all time, when they have personalities and are able to provide insight and stories, it makes for such a better product.
Yeah, I think A-Rod is not the guy and bringing that up because he's sitting behind the desk because you know what? We don't like him.
Right.
Jeter's that guy. Like if if you're going to sit down and like, my gosh, you were part of 5 World Series championship teams playing in the Bronx, and you were the star in New York. You are baseball royalty. Like if you just heard stories like that, but then again, I don't know if Jeter has that in him to do that sort of thing. I just thought, okay, very rarely do we get something different on sports television. And that, to me, felt different last night to the point of, okay, somebody will copycat this in the NFL.
And hopefully it works out, and hopefully it's not Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, like, honestly, like, you wonder, like, did Fox botch this? Like, should that have been Brady in that regard? Brady as a color commentator? Please.
Doesn't do much for me, yeah. But you give me 15 minutes of Tom Brady. He had a pregame show, I think, before Monday Night Football on the radio. That was fun and interesting, but it was cookie cutter.
It was Jim Gray.
Yeah, called Let's Go or something like that.
Well, no, that was for years on Westwood 1, which I don't know, little birdie told me maybe will be more Westwood 1 at some point. But that was always like, it wasn't quite a softball, but it was quid pro quo, meaning that Brady is a paid appearance and Jim Gray wasn't going to make his guests look bad. But Brady would give you some stuff. That's why, like, Brady, I think, is a smart guy, and I think he's just he's miscast in this role as the lead color guy. Greg Olson, I think he's really good. By the way, you're getting Greg Olson for Carolina and the Bills this week, so it's a Fox game. Just kind of be aware. That's kind of what it feels like, right? When the Bills go on the road into an NFC team, it should be on Fox. Those rules don't always apply. Tim, we've got shots coming up. Some of the other stories we can talk about here in the sports bar, where we got another anecdote here from last night. We have some sportscaster that is in the hospital right now. That's not good at all. And the Jays and Dodgers, some more notes on the World Series. Time for your calls as well at 866-4FAN. You're welcome to join us at 866-4326 here on the Fan Rochester.
update.
Bills practice notes from today, not practicing. Josh Palmer still week to week, as well as Daquan Jones. Taylor Rapp didn't practice today as well. He's got a knee injury. Sean McDermott talking about that Carolina rushing attack.
The ability to have two guys is certainly, powerful and dangerous. There's very few in the league who have two. I think overall they bring a lot to the table in terms of what they do at the line of scrimmage and the tackles they break, and the numbers speak for themselves.
Sunday, our coverage will begin at 9 a.m., 1 o'clock the kickoff with Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Capaccio here on The Fan. Tonight, we've got Amherst Hockey, the team hosting Syracuse, 7 o'clock for the coverage. Sabres tonight taking on Detroit. That game can be heard on 96.5 WCMF beginning at 7:30. Team Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Listen to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. The Fan, Rochester.
As we always welcome your feedback, whether that's on X, The Fan Rochester being our handle. You can call us at 866-4FAN. You can write to us in the chat box on Twitter and Tim, or on YouTube, I should say, YouTube and Twitch, and that goes well beyond our borders here. As Dan writing in, I live in the Toronto area, and I love all this Jays talk. I have family in the Rochester area. I love visiting your great city. Thank you for Ernie Clement, and hopefully he can bring us a World Series championship. He's already a Jays legend. Dan, thank you for watching. Appreciate that. And, I guess if you have connections to Rochester, I'm always curious how people kind of find us outside the borders. But
yeah, I remember when I first started here, previous boss of ours, or of mine, had people calling in, or not calling in, but reaching out from Sweden. And I'm not sure how the radio wavelengths work, but when it's dark enough, that signal reaches. And fun stories from literally overseas that we have a reach to and a connection with.
Yeah, now with the Odyssey app, I mean, it's kind of like that. Those days and age of like, hey, it's late at night and your signal's bouncing around. But if you're listening on the AM dial, I can tell you that you can pretty much get it all the way. My son goes to Alfred State, and I've like gone down there a bunch of times. I'm like, okay, I'm still picking this up. And certainly want to listen to Amherst Hockey tonight. You can do that in many different ways. And the way I would recommend, just download the Odyssey app, and you can listen to real time, or you can go back. And if you don't have to listen to our show 3 to 6, you can listen in tomorrow morning if you like. You can listen tonight. You can listen while you're doing laundry, whatever fits your lifestyle. One other thing, because Tim is a smart ass. Now, I put this on X, and I didn't realize that you picked up on it. So the Bills have announced, and this never, ever, ever was a thing, right? But because we love uniforms so much here in this day and age, the Bills, and pretty much every team does this now, not just in the NFL, almost in every sport. Here's our uniform combo coming up. And the Bills are going with the uniform combo. They're on the road. The white helmets, the white jerseys, the blue pants with the blue socks. And I recognize that I remember putting this out one time before. I'm kind of alone on this take. I think that's their best combo. I'm not a fan of the blue on blue. I think the blue on the white is classic, and the white on the white when you're on the road is fine. Week 18 is going to be electric when they bring back the red helmets, and I thought that the City Connect version, whatever they call it, the rivalry, that was fine too. But for me, this is the one, and I know some people don't like this. And I just put it on an X, the best Bills uni combo, me as the old man standing in the town hall meme. Now, you got a picture of the old man standing with the leather jacket and everybody looking up at him as he's ready to give this contrarian point of view. So what does that co-host do today? I don't know when you did this. You're supposed to be working, but you photoshopped that meme in my head, and you photoshopped the actual picture of Dawson Knox with my head as Dawson Knox.
Yeah, so when you were on with PJ Glasser and Sal Capaccio, I was scrolling through Twitter just to see what was going on with sports in general, but I came across yours, and I took a screenshot of them, sent them to my roommate, who was able to throw it together, and I was holding on to it for about an hour and unleash the beast.
Unleash the beast.
I'm glad you saw it. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not looking at Twitter every second while you're doing a live radio show. It can be a little distracting, but certainly you got to keep an eye on it in case we do have any breaking news or anything like that. Your calls here. I'm thinking, Tim, this might be our last segment. So if you want to call in, now would be the time to do it. Some of the other stories here in shots. If the song Rumble Rock was the reason you tuned into NBC last night, I would think there's a better reason tonight even to tune in. Now, there's nothing new about the NBA being on ESPN. It's been on there since I don't know how long. But no, coming up 6 o'clock tonight, Inside the NBA debuts on the network at, again, top of the hour, the 1 hour pregame show before Cavs Knicks. I would say that might be more entertaining. Not might. It will be more entertaining than Cavs Knicks. Ernie Johnson, analysts Charles Barkley, Shaq O'Neal, Kenny Smith. It's going to look, it's going to sound, it's going to be the exact same show from TNT. In fact, as far as I know, it's still in the Atlanta studios and just feeding it to ESPN, which is really strange considering that's a competing company, and this is probably what the NBA really wanted. I just can't wait for Chuck to mock ESPN tonight and dare them to do something about it. What are you going to do, punish me? I don't work for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. Again, I'm not a huge NBA guy. I'm at maximum a casual fan, but I will, between the hour between us going up the air right now and the Amerks dropping the puck, I'm going to tune in and see how chaotic it can get, because those are guys out there. They're doing a job, of course, but they have so much fun with it, and they do such a good job with it that it's captivating to somebody like me who is not an NBA fan really by any stretch of the imagination. Charles Barkley being allowed to be basically unhinged on a network that he outwardly despises is going to be
great.
awesome.
It's going to be freaking awesome.
And it might take a show or two for him to get comfortable. I mean, don't get me wrong. He is just off the cuff and will do whatever he wants. But he might be buttoned up today just to appease the suits. And then we might get a whole year of him just being outwardly unashamed and just bashing ESPN. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think here's the line, Tim. I think Chuck is smart enough to know this. Last year, I kind of recall, I don't remember the take, but this is how far behind I think ESPN was compared to TNT. Kendrick Perkins, who those midday shows that nobody even watches, and it gets into this online thing or whatever it was with Barkley. It's like, no, stay in your lane, Kendrick. So I don't think you're going to have anything like that tonight. I think the line is this. You can make fun of ESPN. You can make fun of whatever it is on the network. But if you attack anybody individually, not that they would go after, say, McCaffrey or McAfee, or somebody along those lines. Not that they would do something like that, or Stephen A. or something. I don't see them going after anybody individually. But if they were, that's when, okay, we gotta talk, guys.
And that might be fun anyway. If that does happen, it creates another branch of absolute chaos that I would be signed up for. And again, this is produced by TNT. It's just broadcast by ESPN. So ESPN might go over TNT and manipulate things the way that they see fit. But that doesn't mean that it didn't happen within those TNT studios. Sign me up for it.
How about this? Other sports clearing a path for baseball. Well, not the NFL. I mean, although the NFL would have had to when it came to the Mariners. If it had timed out for last Monday night and they had the home field, it wasn't the Jays, if it was another team they were facing, they were going to have to move that Monday night game to a different time. And that might have been Sunday. So there was talk of that. But the NFL doesn't have to do that. But we did have the NHL doing that. We had the NBA doing that. And not necessarily for public safety reasons. A Sabre game in Toronto, I got moved up to 5 o'clock. And that's just to allow fans in Toronto to go and allow viewers on Rogers or whoever carries those games to actually not lose all the ratings. So keep the ratings, and then you can go over to the baseball game, which will start at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. The Raptors home opener against Milwaukee on Friday. No. That's not going to start at 7:30. The NBA was like, okay, we can't play that at 5. We'll move it to 6:30. which that's still early. The Leafs even adjusting the time of next Tuesday game against Calgary, 6 o'clock. So a lot of things kind of happening, and you get an idea. There was footage last night, 2 nights ago in Calgary with the Flames playing, that when the Springer home run happens, everybody's going crazy.
Bonkers,
Yeah.
yes. Imagine being a legitimate Toronto sports fan and having that opportunity this Saturday to do a doubleheader as a fan, being able to go to that Maple Leafs game and then being able to go to that Blue Jays game. That is something that every sports fan should aspire to do at some point in their life, especially something so meaningful.
Hear me out. You know me. I'm the guy who likes to be early for everything. Would you really feel comfortable, meaning, okay, that game gets over at 7:30, first pitch is at 8:08. I want to say it's like a 10-minute walk, but you still got to get through security and everything else. I just wouldn't want to miss anything to do with the World Series. I would probably be pulling. I hear you, but if it were me, I'd be pulling the ripcord. All right, second period, we're going to go over, and I want to make sure we're seeing starting lineups and everything else for the championship.
Yeah, if I have to, I might consider leaving at the last media time out of that hockey game just to make sure that I'm there. Because, again, it's a regular season hockey game 4 weeks into the season or whatever it is, and it's the World Series. I'm not missing a second of the World Series. But if I get to use basically a tailgate as a hockey game, or a hockey game as a tailgate, that sounds like a hell of a weekend to me.
We got on the topic of Toronto with the worst traffic, and people nominated Atlanta. I can't vouch for Atlanta. Danger would tell me Nashville's horrible. It's not Rochester. That's one thing we have going for us. 2 thumbs up. Sportscaster Brian Gummel remains in a Manhattan hospital. TMZ reporting that he was rushed there on Monday night. 77-year-old host of Real Sports on HBO, which ended in 2023 after a 29-year run. What show lasts 29 years? That's a really great run. Of course, Brian's older brother, Greg, passed away last year at the age of 78.
Hope he does well. It's a bummer. Anytime, watching people age sucks. There's nothing good that comes of it other than reflecting about how great their life was. But it's a bummer to watch people deteriorate like that.
It's also like you're kind of, you're especially when you think you know somebody, but you really don't. Like, you remember their character from 30, 40 years ago, and then you realize, oh, wow, time did actually kind of move. Like, for example, the Red Wings brought him in years ago, Corbin Burnson, our guy, he's with the Orioles now. Nate Rowan, hey, do you want Corbin Burnson? Yes, I want Corbin Burnson. He came on, was fantastic, and you realize, wait a second, that's not the guy from LA. It is the guy from LA Law. It is the guy that was in Major League. It's now Corbin Burnson, some 40 years later. That I don't know why I wouldn't have understood that, but I'm always taken aback how we picture somebody from their character or whatever it is, and then you don't realize that, time
that's
is
not
actually
a real person. The human being within that is the real person. Yeah.
Right, and the time that passed in between on this, and when you see Brian Gumbel at 77, yeah, he was doing NFL 80. He took over for Costas, I want to say, way back when, and doing the Today Show. So he's had a great career. Now, the thing about Brian Gumbel, I've heard, not the nicest guy. Greg was the nicer brother. There was an expose in Sports Illustrated years ago. It was, man, some might call it a hatchet job. Really made it sound like a jerk, which I don't know if that's reflective of his true character. But Brian Gumbel, we wish him a speedy recovery. How about this? So the Ravens only 1 win. You must be cackling.
That's great. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
they're still better than the Browns, but 1 win.
1 win.
Boo Ravens.
Yeah, 1-5. They're still better than the Browns. Not by record, Tim. Not by record. John Harbaugh is getting serious. We're getting serious. We can't afford any more losses. So what did the Ravens do? The team moved the fun items out of the locker room. Gone. Ping pong tables. Gone. Video game consoles. Gone. The basketball hoop. Gone. The cornhole boards. Ravens expect to get Lamar Jackson back. They are 6.5-point favorites against the Bears coming up Sunday.
Ruining the culture to force victory seems like a horrible recipe. Good luck, Ravens. Continue losing. Sign me up for all of them.
How does that ever actually kind of work when you're going to treat paid professionals like the whole idea of that stuff, Tim, isn't to hear me out. It's not to, distract and goof off. it's a way to get guys to spend time with one another.
Yeah, unwind, relax, and not take your job, which you are paid handsomely to do, so seriously. Go out there, win the games, but also have fun doing it.
You know, we had fun today because I had more for you, and then the damn music.
We ran out of time. We got
commercial
rushed off the stage.
schmercials. Like, yeah, we'll just keep coming. Well, Timmy, you are going to be at the helm tonight for Amherst hockey. We should remind people a couple things. One, listen to the Amherst tonight. Don Stevens, Andrew Mossbrook. Syracuse is the opponent. If you're going to the game, certainly, listen if you're there at the arena as well. Also, we're going to be out live Friday. Finger Lakes Gaming and Racetrack, the show on the road at Remedy inside of Finger Lakes Gaming. Join us Friday, Sports Bar on the road. Danger's back tomorrow. Timmy, thank you very much, buddy.
You betcha. Happy to be here.
The JR Sport Brief coming up 6 o'clock, and then we're heading over to Amherst Hockey. For Tim Schneider, my name is Gene Battaglia here on The Fan, Rochester. Have a good night.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Trick or treat at the Tally Ho's annual Halloween